Fifth straight game for Spears, going over 100 yards. Pratt's going to look left. One-on-one coverage. Has a guy down there. Drops it right in. Touchdown. What a throw. Shea Wyatt.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Pine back to pass. Pressured. Steps up. Pine's going to heave it deep toward the end zone. And it is caught. A reach around. Braden Lindsey somehow snagged it.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Friday show is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford.
Aired out to McLean. McLean's going to get free. He's into the end zone. 15 yards and another touchdown strike for the Seminoles.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Up to play action, or then launch downfield for Worthy into double coverage, and it's intercepted by Hodges Tomlinson. And he's a threat with the ball in his hand, so TCU set up again in plus territory, and the very rough start continues for Ewers.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Gundy trying to take the top off. Has a man in stride at the 50-yard line. John Paul Richardson is going to go. House call. Cowboys 83 yards for the touchdown.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Daniels, he's going to tuck and run. Gets past Sanders, and Daniels with a big gainer after the spin inside the 20.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And yes, we have all three of us back together again. It is 365 Sports. Craig Smoak is back. The Dragon, as some of you have even asked in the chat room. Paul, what are we? We're just people.
I don't know. They gave us different names at one time, but, I mean, not as cool as the Dragon.
No, the Dragon is back. Patrick Cheney, Clint Moses, everyone's at Paula. Happy Friday, 365 people, party people. I hope the Dragon is better. Is the Dragon back? The Dragon is back. So good to have Craig back, who has been slightly under the weather in the last couple of days. Good to have you back, Craig.
Well, thank you. As far as I'm concerned, the Dragon is Ricky Steamboat, but I will take on that nickname because he's been retired for a while now. And if you can't tell, I've been coming off of some type of little viral bug or whatever and was, pretty sick the last couple of days. So glad to be up and at 'em and feeling a bit better than I certainly was when I got home on Tuesday night, which is the last time I was on the show. By the end of the show, I was feeling a little weird, and sure enough, got hit by something pretty hard. So glad to be better, glad to have my fever broke, and glad to be talking some college football and whatnot.
You can be honest here. Did whatever the hell that was that I cooked on Wednesday night make any difference at all? And it had no taste to it. You didn't eat it, did you?
No, I did. I just everything's kind of a blur, quite frankly. I mean, I had
after he had it, yeah.
No, I had like a 102.9 fever on Tuesday night, and then it didn't break until probably late yesterday. That soup that you made, I definitely think it made me feel a bit better. So to whoever gave you that recipe, I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for welcoming me back.
All right, so here we go. Paul Catalina, David Smoak right here in the middle, and Craig Smoak is back. And glad to have everybody already on the chat room Holy moly, we've got a weekend and teams who want to continue to have a chance to play for a national title, including one that's in Waco. In fact, they're probably here at any moment now. TCU, Baylor tomorrow, Fox, and again, that game at 11 o'clock. We'll have our pregame at 9 o'clock. Paul, if Baylor doesn't force turnovers, now I don't know who they're going to be because we don't know from week to week, but if they don't get a couple of turnovers, can they beat TCU?
No. And look, the games that they didn't get turnovers in this year, for the most part, they haven't won. And they had started to turn the corner on that, but then, Kansas State just came in here and played a completely nearly flawless game all the way up and down both sides of the ball. So I think this team has just gotten more confusing. Had they lost that game 31-24, I would have been like, well, I mean, that's kind of how they've lost games this year. They're in it until they're not, and then, made a couple mistakes here and there. But I don't know how this team's going to respond to a blowout. I mean, that was humiliating at home for them. And how do you bounce back from that? How do you bounce back from that? Not only with that, it's not like you get the worst team in the conference coming in. You get one of the best teams, not only in the conference, but in the entire country is coming in to play you. A team that has owned you the last few years. A team that is your biggest rival. All those things, get into a little fall in the Venn diagram this week of bad for Baylor. So I don't know. They've got to get turnovers and they got to make Max Duggan look human, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
They could throw it to the big receiver in Quentin Johnston, who hurt Baylor badly last year. They have Duggan, who can run it and throw it, and they have two really tough running backs. And of course, let's not forget about their special teams' ability to take a punt and go the distance too.
Yeah, I think that Texas showed that you can limit them last week. They're not going to just necessarily rip off 40 a game, although their average is close to that. Baylor's average is pretty respectable as well. But I was sitting there trying to predict this game last night, and I think I had a pretty good feel for K-State. Not that the overall win would occur, but as far as it being a lower scoring game, I think I had it like a 24-21 type of game. A lot of people had that at like 35-28 and, much bigger scoring. I thought, and I think I was pretty accurate in believing that K-State was going to play keep away and try to grind the ball away. I just didn't expect them to still win by 4 touchdowns because Baylor's offense was going to be so inept. I thought that the Bears would at least score a little bit and keep K-State's offense off the field, and then in turn, it's like a 24-14 type of ball game. That's not exactly what happened, but with this one, I don't really have any great idea of how it goes. I mean, I really don't. I don't know what to think in terms of kind of how this chess match is played out, because on the one hand, I think that you could very well see kind of a grinded out type of a game, but with TCU's defense playing the way they did last week and Baylor's offense playing the way it has, I mean, do y'all trust them to just go out there and grind out 5-minute drives or 3.5 minute? No, I don't. So, can they play the slowdown game? Can TCU play the slowdown game against Baylor's defense? Baylor's defense is susceptible, but I think that kind of plays into their cards a little bit, even though K-State was able to do it well. So I don't know. I'm not big on the slowdown game. I could see, a high-scoring affair, but then again, TCU with, barely giving up any points last week to a talented Texas offense. So, yeah, I'm very curious to see how this thing kicks off and then what it turns into as they sort of settle in after those first couple of, those first scripted drives for each team. How do they come out attacking one another? And then once that turns into whatever that turns into, 0-0, 7-7, 7-0, somebody, then what do we kind of see them both, start to try to carve out? And I do think that ultimately, yes, for Baylor to win this game, they're probably going to need some turnovers, to answer your question. And that's something that up until last week, they were getting at a pretty good clip all of a sudden and didn't get them last week at all. TCU doesn't really turn the ball over much, and they have a much better turnover margin than Baylor does. So the Bears are going to have to create something. I just don't know how easy or how much they'll be able to actually do that.
All right, well, here's what I said. And, Craig, you'll be happy to know that I changed what I wrote actually for our staff predictions. I called Grayson earlier today. I do believe Baylor will have their full throttle focus and effort Saturday. And why wouldn't they after they had their football manhood taken away from them by Kansas State? But TCU has the it factor, too many weapons on offense and special teams. Frogs get to 11-0, win their 7th game against Baylor in the last 8 years.
I was probably a little bit more caustic than that, just because my thing is, if anybody likes to pretend like they know what Baylor's going to do, you're lying. Right. I mean, so
true.
As I said, like, we're fooling ourselves if we know, like, this is how it's going to be.
You think Dave Aranda knows?
No.
He clearly doesn't.
And I think he's been pretty honest about that.
Exactly.
No, he doesn't know that. Last year, you could say that about this team. In 2019, you could say that about this team. There have been those groups where you can say, yeah, I know how it's pretty much going to go. This time, you don't really know that. So it's hard to put your finger on what they're going to do and how they're going to come out and what wheel on the bus is not going to go round and round, and so you can have, yeah. So which one is going to pop the flat that's going to ultimately undo them? That's their biggest thing is that they've had games where certain things are going really, really well. And then there's another thing on the other side that will counteract the fact that was happening.
It's like your pistons in a car. I mean, everything can sound great, but or whatever that might be.
Yeah, I like that response much better. And to be clear, I just gave you some constructive criticism on that.
You made a good point with me.
Yeah, and I think that's dead on. And no, I'm not. I think mine almost exactly was that I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I absolutely believe they can win this game. And that's just how I feel is, yeah, absolutely Baylor can win this game tomorrow. I totally understand where some people are coming from, believing that this could be an upset special. I think a lot of the eyes in the country from not only, these fan bases, but, obviously Big 12 fans and everybody involved in college football right now is going to have eyes locked in on this game because of, where TCU sits right now. So I definitely believe the makings are there. And last week only should reinforce the possibilities of an upset and Baylor playing much better this week. So I get why, all the ingredients are there for that recipe, but I just don't trust the chefs right now. I don't trust them to make the right meal with the ingredients they have because we've given them ingredients before and they've just fumbled the bag and turned it into, complete disaster, burnt the toast, did all of that. So, if we were 2-3 games in, I'd go, okay, I'll give Baylor the benefit of the doubt. They can come out and win this game. We're 10 games in. We're 10 games in, and they're pretty much the team that they were at the beginning of the year when it comes to these types of situations. So that would lead you to believe that they do have a chance to bounce back well. But in terms of showing up, beating the number 4 team, unbeaten, who's been able to win every type of way, I just don't have that faith in these Bears to go all in on them tomorrow.
All right, the chat room, as I mentioned, is going. We'll get to predictions, our college predictions. Last week, Paul made a big jump. Craig stayed pretty much where he is, and I had a fall flat on my face. So if I want to complain about Baylor's performance, mine was just as bad when it comes to pick'em. I'm bouncing back this week. In fact, I secretly contacted Levi to change some picks so that you would not steal them from me.
I made mine right away.
You always do.
I was pretty confident in what I'm picking. I am a little bit nervous about Bo Nix, but I'm gonna stick to it.
Yep, I changed a couple of mine. Now, this is also, and we thanks to Burt Colgan Ford and Mark Stewart on the Loop 340 and Highway 6 in Waco. This is the second round of the Texas High School Football Playoffs, just to give you that note. And so a lot of things are happening. Last night there were games played. Round 2 of the Texas High School Football Playoffs. You have to win 6 times to win a state championship. And last night Marlin got knocked out by Tolar 71-18, a shocking lopsided score. Tolar now on their way to a matchup with either Crawford or Coleman for those of you in the Waco proper area. Larry Harmon is the head coach at UMHB after the longtime Hall of Famer, multinational championship coach and Pete Fredenberg decided to retire. We'll have Grayson Grundhoefer, Taylor McHargue, and Sam Bradshaw today to break down Baylor, TCU, and also the Big 12. Ben Bolch, LA Times on USC and UCLA at UCLA coming up this weekend tomorrow, and all of that in Paul's Top 5 to close out the day. Now, this is a story that came down, I think it was sometime late yesterday evening. Leaders throughout college athletics are considering appointing a chief operating officer for college football who would report to a proposed FBS football governing board, as if they don't have enough boards. But a lengthy letter written by from the Lead One Association that was obtained by ESPN.
Yeah, well, they need a COO, a commissioner, or whatever you want to call it. They've needed this for a long time. Part of the issue that the NCAA has had is that And part of this is Title IX, and that's justifiable that you want to, in the spirit of that law, make sure that if you're going to have 85 scholarships for male athletes, that you have to counterbalance that. But they've also tried to treat football and men's basketball, and now to an extent women's basketball, like every other sport. Mm-hmm. And for football and men's basketball in particular, you have to treat them differently. You cannot treat it like tennis. You can't. It's different. The revenues are different. The recruiting is different. Everything about it's different. So they need to separate out football, and they've been doing that incrementally for a while. But if you did this and separated out football and created a different subset of governors and people overseeing this, and a commissioner or COO, would be so much better. Craig's called it a czar for a long time. Yep. It's what they need. The money involved in college football now is akin to a professional league, correct? With the television money.
I was just on the phone with one of our sponsors, Randy Peters, who's at Peters Chevrolet, and he was telling me he was at the Texas game against TCU, and he said, isn't this now in two ways just like pro football? And he said, it is. The money and the fact you never know what the hell's going to happen from week in and week out.
And television, all these different things, name, image, likeness, all this, so you can have endorsements. So there needs to be someone like the commissioner of football, like Roger Goodell or Gary Bettman in the NHL or Adam Silver. I will not mention Rob Manfred because they don't need anybody like him. But they do need a commissioner to run this thing, a COO, whatever title you want to call him, the poobah, I don't care. But they need somebody to oversee this like a professional sport, because more or less it runs like one.
Yeah, I mean, there's just different rules. There's a different ball game that they're playing in college football versus their peers everywhere else. I mean, maybe men's basketball you could somewhat lump into that because of just the tournament and all that comes with that. But, I mean, it's night and day, the football side, and, tennis or golf or softball or what have you, in every way, shape, and form, other than they're just athletes at the same school. So I know I've seen plenty of people over the years put up the idea of who would be great at this or have touted themselves as that or whatever. But this isn't about you becoming a commissioner and I would put these dream matches together and it's not that. It's way more boring than that, quite frankly, a lot of what this job would entail in so many ways. But I do think that, yes, if there was ever a sport that kind of needed its own lead dog and somebody with the foresight, but also the knowledge of, why it is special in its own right, and the need to try and keep that while evolving the same as you possibly can, but being very open-minded and aware to the fact that there does have to be some massive change in some ways. I don't know who has the mind to wrap around all of those things successfully, but there's people out there passionate who love this sport, who are very smart, who I think, put their heads together, can find the right person or persons to lead the charge. And if there's anything missing from college football right now, it is certainly leadership, and it is certainly a singular type of voice. Everybody wants to be that or acts like that. But, I think everybody ultimately does need to kind of know where to look in times of need, or times, where they arrive at a crossroads of sorts, because every time we've seen a crossroads come up, whether it's realignment, whether it's name, image, likeness, whatever it's been, it's just chickens with their heads, running around. And it's kind of it's like Game of Thrones. It's like just power struggles. And there needs to be, more of a steadying hand with everybody's best interest in mind. So I'm all for it. I think, people have been talking about it for years. Like you said with me, I've talked about it for a long time. I know others have as well. And, I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, how receptive people in power are to having somebody else in power above them, that's where it gets a little bit complicated, most likely. But
easier said than done.
Yeah. My two big concerns would be Greg Sankey and Kevin Warren. Because, when you are ruling Westeros like they are right now, to have somebody come in and be like, listen, you guys are doing a great job at running your conferences. You have a boss now, though. You have to report to you. They're going to be like, king. Like, oh, no. Hold on.
Right. And so, there's that part that you'd have to, be sure everybody was on board with, because, I could see a scenario where you name a college football czar or what have you, and then there's always going to be that threat of those two breaking off and starting their own thing, right? I mean, I think that's calmed down, that talk, but that still very much looms, especially when you look at the college football playoff rankings and you see how easy it would be to put together a Big Ten SEC playoff? I mean, y'all see how that's already – if TCU loses tomorrow, that thing's even easier to try and construct. So, yeah, there's a lot of different agendas. There's a lot of different power, struggles and all of that to have to deal with. But I do absolutely think that, having a singular voice to kind of be the voice of college football and to be the place to go for everybody involved would be a good idea. And certainly better than the way that it's currently constructed.
All right, we will have our national picks, which also include 5 of the Big 12 games because there's 5 games coming up this weekend a little bit later in the show, probably around 4 o'clock. It'll be around 4:05 or so today after a couple of our guests. Now, this was disappointing, and I get why. Like the Bills game against Cleveland, if there were ever 2 teams that were built for the monsoon, well, it's not a monsoon, blizzard up in the Buffalo area, if there were ever 2 teams built for that, fan bases that would be thrilled with it, the game in Buffalo moved to Detroit. It's in a dome. Buffalo, the football team, the college football team, in their game with Akron has been postponed. We'll consider playing on Sunday if weather and travel conditions permit.
Well, if the Bills can't play on Sunday, then why can they? I don't think that's going to happen. Have you seen the Bills stadium?
Oh, no, it's fantastic.
Say,
I think that our country's gone soft.
No, in many ways, yes, they have. But in this one, I think they've gone smart.
The Commissioner Rozelle calls Vince Lombardi.
This is how unused to snow I am. Amanda sent me that tweet of the Bills. Like, I guess it was a remote camera because I can't imagine somebody at the stadium just taking that with their phone. But the snow filled the whole thing. And my thought was like, how does that guy get home if he's there? Does he have a snowmobile? And 2, I know they're trying to clear roads, but you can't when it's coming down that fast. It's almost futile. And I was like, well, what do you do with your dogs? Like, how do you deal with that? And
you build tunnels outside the door. You've never done that before?
With snow?
No, they have that. They're used to it. This is not the first time.
But yeah, I don't know.
You let them go, and you make tunnels in the snow outside. If you can get outside of your front door without it pouring inside your front porch.
We're not winter blizzard experts, I would just say.
Really,
but yeah, there's got to be a way they've worked around the dog issue over the years.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm kidding. But I worry, about the dogs, and I am terrified of snow, as you guys know. I think it's the devil's dandruff. I don't appreciate it.
So,
snow?
I hate it.
Go ahead.
A snow parade with birds would be like Paul's absolute worst nightmare. A parade in the snow with a crowd of birds following along would be Paul's ultimate.
I would pay anything.
Would be his scary movie
on Halloween.
On Halloween, that'd be fantastic.
At the Rose Bowl.
Here's the deal: snow. I'll watch Christmas movies and watch people watch them oh, that must be beautiful. And I've been stuck inside in the snow. I don't mind sitting inside in the snow, but it makes everything harder. So I just. As a South Florida boy, it scares me and I don't understand it.
All right.
Last time I saw it was our Snowmageddon about 2 years ago. That was a nightmare.
For me, it was great, but not for everyone else.
Not for me.
I had no problem with my electricity. I had a fire going.
Good for you.
Yeah. Last night, Tulane just crushed SMU. 59-24. They scored early and often. Tanner Mordecai was off just under 300 yards, but they had a bad game. There were fumbles. There were picks. 5 turnovers. Tulane bounced back from the loss to UCF and just absolutely hammered SMU 59-24.
I still think Tulane would have won this game regardless of what happened last week against UCF, but this is a Tulane team that plays really tough a lot of the time, and to lose at home last week, I don't know if it was SMU or the Philadelphia Eagles. They would have been in for a rough night just because that's how Willie Fritz has built this team. We talked to him a couple weeks ago. They're tough. They're hard-nosed, and I would not, again, want to play them after they lost.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a surprise that Tulane was looking to bounce back after that UCF loss. So you had to expect their best efforts. They were playing at home as well, and obviously it's a big game with SMU. Tanner Mordecai didn't have his best night, had a couple of picks, and he can do that on occasion. He can be brilliant, but he can also have those games where he's just a little bit squirrely and off and throws you a couple of balls. And, wasn't just that, really this was the SMU defense, just not being able to stop the green wave. And if SMU's had an Achilles heel, it's not been Mordecai turnovers or, lack of skill guys by any measure. I mean, offensively, they're able to play with just about anybody, but, defensively, they've given up, a lot of points to a lot of teams this year. So, Tulane able to maximize, that weakness and, take advantage of it, and they did so in a major way, obviously, scoring 59 freaking points. I mean, they jumped all over them early, and they were in full control by halftime. So, a really impressive showing. Michael Pratt was, solid. He didn't have, like crazy numbers, but he's just very efficient.
He was tough, and he made some runs early on that kind of broke SMU.
Yeah, he just, was very efficient, very solid, and, did everything just well. I mean, they just played well. And, great win for Tulane, great bounce back. And SMU now with Rhett Lashley, kind of that 500 football team that, has some talent, obviously. They're going to be losing some really good players, though, after this year. Like, they're going to be losing some really good players. And I'm curious to see how Lashley sort of reloads, by any means, whether it's the recruiting side of it, which is the class he signs, or also the transfer portal, of course, as well. But, they've had some of these guys at SMU around for a while now, including Mordecai. So kind of surprising that they're where they are ultimately. But, yeah, just can't get enough stops on defense, and, we'll see where they go from here.
All right, tonight Baylor plays Virginia up in Vegas. You got a pretty good contingent of Baylor fans. I know one of our owners, Brian Etheridge, has been there. Can you imagine this? And Larry Harmon, UMHB in a moment. Brian has been in Vegas for 8 days.
No,
at a convention.
I think longer now. He was there for 9 days when I talked to them 2 days ago.
Okay, so and he's not coming back ever. I don't know. What's the max on being able to, and Phil Venzer, who's always listening and watching us, Phil's in Vegas all the time. What would be the max of what you could put up with overnight stays in Vegas?
4 days.
4?
4 days.
See, I think mine would be 3 and maybe 2.
I think 4 days, and one of those days has to be the day you get in and just kind of dip your toe in the water, maybe hang out at the pool. But mostly, Vegas was designed to be the 3-day weekend city.
Yeah, no, that's why I asked. Craig, you've never been there, have you?
I've never been to Vegas. No, I haven't, oddly enough. But so, yeah, I wouldn't have a great gauge, but a place like any place, I think typically 3-4 days is sort of your average. So I would start there, and I don't know, maybe I'd find myself lost in all the wonders and make it a week. But no, yeah, to start off with, I'd say 3-4 days. I went for a buddy's bachelor party, and that was 4.
They did a movie on you guys.
It was 4 days.
They did a movie on you.
I remember sitting outside of Burger King in the airport going, I don't even know where I am.
You can't even taste your food.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have Larry Harmon, UMHB Division III playoffs, of course, will begin. They are trying to yet win another one. They have the one loss earlier this year to Whitewater, who's one of the other elite teams in Division III. That Grayson, Sam Bradshaw, and also Taylor McHargue break down all the college games we ask him about, Big 12, Baylor, TCU, among others. All of that and more, including Ben Bolch on UCLA and USC. This is 365 Sports. Dr. Kent Petty and PettyClinicLowT.com. It's on the website, PettyClinicLowT, which is the capital T.com, PettyClinicLowT.com, can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and perhaps used to be. As you get older, things happen. Your body, father time takes over. There's nothing you can do about it unless you can, by being in better shape, by watching your diet, or just making sure you're always trying to be as healthy as you can be. But eventually, it just takes over. And sometimes taking over means your testosterone levels will drop. And when they do, it could affect you in many different ways, including 1 out of every 3 men have low testosterone and symptoms of that. Bad sleep habits, energy is not the same, sex drive's not the same, ED, whatever it might be. Contact PettyClinicLowT.com. Tell them I sent you, and they will set you up to get your blood work. They will take care of all of that for you. Then when they get the results, Dr. Petty and the staff will contact you, and if your testosterone level is lower than it should be, they can put you in a program to increase it, and you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
This month, Allen Samuelson Waco is having the Black Friday sales event. You can save big on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab with total values up to $4,250 with 2.9% for 72 months. That's right, plus an extra $500 bonus cash to first responders and no payments until January 2023. Shop an award-winning dealership with award-winning product. Allen Samuelson Waco, the place to shop Ram trucks.
Come by. Let's be friends.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
It is like clockwork, Division III football, and Mary Hardin Baylor, and there have been the dominant type of dynasties along the way, and Mary Hardin Baylor has been right in the middle of it. And Larry Harmon, first-year head coach, longtime assistant coach under Pete Fredenberg, joins us on 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. Larry, first of all, thank you very much for your time. Are you ready, tested, and ready to make another run?
Yeah, I believe we are, David. I thought that our non-conference of playing the Whitewaters of the world and Muhlenbergs, that got us prepared for our conference, and then I think our conference doesn't get enough credit for being, the high quality that it is. I mean, Hardin Simmons, nice to see that they got back in the playoffs this year, but Howard Payne and Jason Bechtel's done a great job there building them up, and they're a really good football team. And so I just feel that with the returners and the leadership that we have and kind of how we finished out the year, we've had some close games. We've had some blowouts. We've gotten banged up and got healed back up. So, you kind of run the gamut, and our kids understand it's time to go make a run, and you got to win 5 in a row.
Has there ever been discussion, and I know it's seeded or whatever, but if you win against Huntington and if Hardin-Simmons beats Trinity, and of course that'll be a challenge, then you got to play them again, like almost immediately. I can understand maybe the third or whatever round. Has there ever been discussion about trying to separate teams in their same conference down the road?
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk about it, but it always comes down to money and location. So
sure.
The one thing that was nice is we used to have to play each other first round. And the NCAA finally put in, there's an absolute rule now that says you will not play an in-conference opponent in the first round. And that's kind of why Hardin-Simmons got sent to Trinity and they're flying Huntington into us. But, you just look at just our quadrant. We have more ranked teams in the top 10 than any other quadrant. And, you look at North Central, they don't have any ranked teams in there. So, it's just kind of a location. Division III was kind of born out east, and there's a lot of teams out there. So, it's always a little difficult just from our geographical standpoint. It's kind of why ours is always so loaded. But typically, when you get through the first 3 rounds that we go through, the rest of it's actually a little easier. So, it's just what it is, and our kids know it, and there's no reason complaining or talking about it. It's just you got to go do it. So,
being with Coach Fred for 20 years, you know him very well. How much during the day do you find yourself when you're coaching sounding like Coach Fred, and then how much are you cutting your own path?
Well, there's never any time that you don't think about, what would Coach Fred do here? It's kind of like growing up. You kind of, as a kid, you think your parents are not very smart, and when I'm an adult, I'm going to do it this way. And then all of a sudden, you're now the parent, and you find yourself doing the same kind of things and making the same decisions your parents make. That's kind of there's a lot of that's happened with me this first year. Is just, when it all comes down to it, what you've gone through has worked and you've been successful, and you just have confidence in that, and there's no reason to change. I mean, it's a proven way to do things, and like I said, me and Pete were actually together 22 years, and you don't stay together that long if you guys don't believe in the same stuff. And so anyway, I've kept a lot of the traditions, a lot of the things that we do, and our philosophy is still the same stuff that we started back in 2000 and got into the playoffs in 2004 and went for the national championship and all of those things. But anyway, he's a big part of me. He was a big part and influence in my coaching, and so there's probably 2% that is something that I'm doing just completely on my own to kind of see if it works or not. The rest of it, I'm doing it based off experiences with Coach Fredenberg.
Coach, while the foundation might be similar, every team is different year to year. How would you summarize and kind of describe this group of Crusaders you've got right now?
Well, we're start of the year, we were young and inexperienced in some really key places. And, we didn't have very much leadership at all on defense. All of our experience was on one side of the football. So you're absolutely right. This team is different than the 2021 team. And it was, there were some heartache and some tough lessons learned and some trials and tribulations that we had to go through this year just on competitive maturity, leadership, trying to go from a coach-led team to a player-led team and those sorts of things. And, I'm happy to say that there's been a lot of growth, and I'm really pleased where we are right now. You know, if you would ask me that question 6 weeks ago, we weren't in a very good place. And I think we've done a lot. I think our seniors really took some big jumps the last 3 weeks. And, you know, like I said, I think they're confident. I know I feel good about where we are. And now we just got to go out and perform and execute and win football games.
So a lot of people may not know this, is that the lineage of winning in your blood is pretty damn good. One, you were at Northwestern Missouri State as an assistant. They won it all 3 times at Mary Hardin Baylor. And then you played at San Diego State, strong safety, 4 years there. And they're number 1 ranked team in the country. And they've been knocking on that door, have they not? How proud are you of your alma mater?
Yeah, South Dakota State.
Yes.
Not San Diego State.
That's what I meant. Yeah, no, I didn't mean. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I knew what you meant. Yeah, John Stiglmeier's recruited me, and he's the head coach, and he's one of the best men I've ever been around. And yeah, you just can't say enough about the job that John has done, and the quality program that they have. And yeah, every time those guys play, you're just proud of them. And back in the COVID year, I got to go. I took my sons up to Frisco to watch them play Sam Houston, which was kind of a neat experience because you never get to see your old team play. But it was nice to go up there and sit out there in the rain. And Sam had one of the best last-minute drives I've ever seen in college football to beat them. But it was just a great experience, and I'm very proud of what South Dakota State and John Stiglmeier has done.
What do opponents say about your stadium, the venue, and how great it is? I mean, we did a game there earlier this year, a high school game, and it was it's as beautiful a place to watch and take in a football game as there is anywhere. Yeah,
and I think our opponents, they know that it's nice, and you kind of see the outside of it, but our opponents really appreciate how we take care of them. So, our conference, it's not a conference rule, but it should be, like if it's hot out and we have air mist fans, we provide air mist fans for our opponents. You don't get that anywhere else in our conference. The locker rooms, I mean, there's 59 lockers in that visitor locker room. There's plenty of space for them to lay out, and there's just a ton of room. And everywhere else in our conference you go, I mean, you can barely get dressed in it. You have maybe your offense in and your defense and special teams are outside getting dressed along the side of the building. So, the compliments we get is just, man, really appreciate how well you just took care of us and our team. And that goes from Dr. Rear and Dr. Theodore down to Mickey Kerr, and then Randy Mann kind of runs the game day stuff at our stadium, and it's just first class, and that's what Mary Hardin Baylor is all about. So it's just an honor and a pleasure to get to coach here, and that's what our opponents say the most is just, man, I can't believe how well you take care of us and our kids. So,
Coach, how much do you enjoy the tournament format in the postseason? Is there anything that you would tweak at all?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily with the tournament. I mean, everybody will have some complaint about how they seed the bracket and how they pick the bracket and all of that. But I think just a 32-team tournament and playing that out over 5 weeks, and the guys that are playing their best at the end are the guys that play for it. And I just think that that's the best form of true national champion that there is. I think it's better than just the 4 making it into the playoffs and 2 rounds and that's it. I like the 32-team bracket.
So as a coach, teams change and evolve, and losing a game in week 2 when you might have guys missing for whatever reason doesn't define a football team, right?
No, I mean, early on, you're trying to develop your team, especially at the Division III level where most of our team is not on our campus in the summer. So they have an electronic copy of a workout, summer manual, and you don't know if they're doing it or not. And you just stay in contact. And you trust and you believe that people are working hard. But until they get onto your campus in August, you don't know. And, the reality of it is at our level that about, 15% is ready to go, and the rest of your team's out of shape, hadn't done nothing. So you're trying to practice and still get kids in shape and not have 35 guys on IVs because it's, 115 degrees outside and all of that stuff. So, it's a big challenge. And, so you wish that we got a little bit more time. I think I had 21 practices before my first game, and you'd like to have a little bit more than that. Just not necessarily maybe football practice, but just a week or two for some conditioning, lifting, and just for player safety. Just make sure that they're ready to start football.
Larry, I know you have to go here with something coming up at 4:00, but in the history of Division III, we know what Mount Union and Whitewater and what you have done, and then Linfield's had their run among others. But do you see, even though the same teams are right there in the top 10, 11, do you see Division III football getting deeper or more competitive?
Well, I see our conference getting a little deeper. I don't know enough yet if it's, all of D3 or not. I do think there's a separation in our conference in Division III. I think there's some schools that kind of still think that Division III football is almost like intramurals.
Yep.
And then you got your group like us, Hardin Simmons, Trinity, Linfield. Those schools, they'll spend money. They will support their athletic programs, and they really want to have a program that they can be proud of, compete, and have a chance to win national championships. So, I think the teams that get in there, there might be one or two different from year to year, but it seems like the same people that reach the quarterfinals and later, the quarterfinal semis, they're usually the same 10 schools.
Yeah.
And, and I haven't seen that change yet. And, those are the people that are willing to spend the money and just do things right. The coaches are working hard and bringing in the quality kids that it takes to compete at that level.
It is absolutely stunning, your campus and also the stadium, as Paul brought up. We enjoyed doing the game there. We appreciate you, and hopefully we'll have you on in a handful of weeks from now. Continue what you're doing. Congratulations on the opportunity, and good luck this weekend and in the future.
Well, thank you, David, and that'd be great. I'd like to be able to come on there with a national championship trophy and talk a little bit. But we got a lot of work to do. We know the road's tough, and we're surely not overlooking anybody. But we got a group of guys that I think I have 30 out of my 58 have played in a Stag Bowl. So there isn't anybody that has more experience than we do for this time of year.
Thank you, Larry. Congratulations and good luck, as we said. And we will have you before that if you get to that point. Thank you for your time, Larry Harmon. First-year head coach after 22 years with Pete Fredenberg at Mary Hardin Baylor, who built that program from scratch and won 3 national titles, 16, 18, and 21. And then he retired at the end of last year after they won it. The 16 was the one that was had to be, forfeited. They won the national title in 16, 18, and 2021. All right, when we come back, Grayson Grundhoefer breaks down why and how can Baylor beat TCU, what are the keys to the game, and more. And this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. I'm not going to give you the price per pound, but I'm going to tell you this. That right now, because it gets kind of confusing, whether it's a mini ham, a mini pit ham, this is a turkey that's loaded up 16 to 18 pounds, or even one that is a smoked turkey. But they have them for you. For Thanksgiving, which is a week from yesterday, as you know, and then even maybe for your Christmas time of the year. Waco Custom Marketplace is a full-throttle butcher shop. That's where I order and get my bone-in ribeyes, and I usually get them about 1.25 inches, and sometimes I'll even go 1.5 inches thick. and they are absolutely delicious. 3 different levels of the type of USDA beef you want. Also, on top of that, brisket and tri-tip, great for tailgating, Baylor tomorrow against TCU or whatever game you have, and a bakery, fresh-baked kolaches and bread every single day available to you. And up and down 2 or 3 different aisles, you'll see what you need, the other necessities you might need to cook something. Pasta, seasonings, sauces, maybe even just chips if that's what you want, and hot sauce. It's a great place. An absolutely fantastic place for tailgating and for whatever food you want to eat. Holidays are every night at Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Care Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhoefer of Sikkim365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Grayson Grundhoefer, Sikkim365.com, the Bearcast also as well. Football analyst, recruiting coordinator, joins us on 365 Sports. Paul, Craig, and David. Grayson, I don't think there's a question. Baylor can beat TCU, but my question to you is, how can they beat TCU?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously the perfect question, right? Because, I mean, going back and looking at what TCU's done over the course of the entire season, you can see there are some spots where they've shown some shakiness. And if you look in their last 6 games, all of them have been decided by 10 points or less. So this isn't a team that's blowing people out. This isn't a team that really gets off to quick starts. But they finish games extremely well. And so I think that's the biggest thing for Baylor is Baylor needs to start strong because that's been TCU's weakness all year long, and then hope that they can either A, weather the storm in the second half, or B, kind of revert to last year's Baylor team that was so good in the second half of those games. I think that's going to be key, is Baylor getting off to a good start. I think some other factors are probably going to be, can Baylor make TCU one-dimensional? And by that I mean, can they take away the run and force Max Duggan to beat them? Duggan's really struggled to be accurate over the latter half of the season. And so if they're able to force him to stand in the pocket and make throws into tight windows, I think they can really test him and challenge him and potentially force some turnovers in that regard as well. But that won't be easy because obviously TCU's run game has really gotten going in the second half of the year. Kendra Miller, one of the best running backs in the Big 12 and the entire country. So it's a tough ask, but I do think it's something that Baylor can definitely do. And we've seen, over the course of the season, they've been up and down. But when they play really well, I think they can beat anyone in the Big 12, including TCU.
Yeah, the problem, though, Grayson, is it never all hits at once, right? And last week was the undoing. I think my biggest question is, we've seen this team bounce back from close losses because all the other ones were close. How does this team bounce back from what happened to them last week?
I think that the biggest thing to remember is, and I always make this pretty much a rule every single year that I go into, and you're going to have a stinker. You're going to have a game where you play your absolute worst. That happens to every team. Now, some teams can withstand that. Other teams cannot. Baylor played their worst game of the year against Kansas State. So to think that they're just going to roll the ball out there and play as bad, that's not going to happen. So it's somewhere in the middle, right? So it's either going to be somewhere in the middle, or are they going to put together their best performance of the season? I think that's kind of where the truth lies. I think Baylor can win with a average performance. I think they can maybe win by a point or sneak one out if TCU has their quote-unquote clunker of the year. But I would also say if Baylor plays their best game of the year, I think they can absolutely and should absolutely beat TCU tomorrow. But you're right. They haven't put that game together yet. I think, Texas Tech was probably the closest to that. But I still think there's one left in store, especially because Baylor didn't have their best game of the year at home yet. And that's been kind of baffling to me how much they've struggled at home. So we'll see if they can turn that around tomorrow.
What did you think about Blake Shapen? I know that it's easy for some people to make him like the scapegoat. I certainly don't think that was the case. I don't think he was great either. But just now here we are, Grayson. It's, the 11th game of the year. So with 10 weeks of evidence, what have you thought of what you've seen overall?
Blake specifically, I think that I'm seeing a quarterback that is still adjusting to the speed of the game. And it's really, again, I think it's one of those things where last year we saw what he did in the Big 12 championship. We saw what he did on the road against Kansas State and the flashes he had against Texas Tech in the season finale last year. But I think there was this unrealistic expectation that he was just going to come into this season and immediately be able to do the exact same thing he did a year ago. And that hasn't quite worked out because teams are scheming against them. Baylor hasn't quite ran the ball to the level that they did a year ago. And because of that, I think it's made things a little bit more difficult for him. Also, you got to remember last year they had Tyquan Thornton, R.J. Sneed, a bunch of older guys at wide receiver and at running back for him to rely on. This year, it's a lot of younger guys. And so I think we've seen those ups and downs that you get from a young group of players when you have a young core. But I still think there's more left in store for Blake, and I'm hoping it happens tomorrow. You've seen flashes from him But again, he hasn't really put together, in my eyes, a great performance and a complete performance outside of maybe the Iowa State game. And then for the parts that he played against West Virginia, if you take away that fumble, he was extraordinary against West Virginia. Problem is you can't take away those turnovers. When they happen, they're very costly. So he's going to have to get that corrected, but maybe he puts it all together in this final game at McLean Stadium, and it helps lead them to a win. But I would say he's just got a lot of growing up to do, as with a lot of guys on this team.
Okay, this is kind of a quick question with an answer and then a follow-up, if you don't mind. Can Baylor win this game without what you would consider a consistent and somewhat methodical running game?
No, they cannot.
Okay, then my follow-up is Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson, both of them are really good, had no chance against TCU in running the football. Now, Baylor's offensive line is much more senior-laden and experienced, so what do you expect with that since TCU shut down that running game?
I think there are two different offenses, to be completely honest with you. And, I mean, if you look at what TCU's done throughout the entire season, they have not been that good against the run at any point during the year. That was their best performance they've played on the defensive line and just stopping the run in general. So, yeah, I mean, you could say, oh, maybe they're turning a corner, but I think it was more so, not a fluke, but more so they had a great game plan against Steve Sarkisian's scheme. So I'm very curious how they handle the wide zone scheme, which is very, very different than a lot of the inside zone stuff that Texas runs. So I think they're going to be able to spread TCU out a little bit. I think they're going to test the athleticism of TCU's linebackers, which I do have a little bit of questions about. I'm curious to see how they're able to deal with this senior-laden Baylor offensive line. So I do think Baylor can actually have success running the ball regardless of what happened last week, just because it's a different opponent, it's a different offense, and a completely different game plan in my eyes.
Grayson, what kind of recruiting weekend are you expecting being the final home game, and how much of a dent do you think any efforts may have taken due to the showing last week?
Right. So I would say that this weekend is kind of up and down as far as, how many guys are you going to have on campus? As in, it's not going to be massive. There will be guys on campus. There will be some big names on campus. But in general, there's a lot of guys still playing in the playoffs this week, a lot of guys who are traveling on a Friday, or guys who have a game on Saturday, such as Austin Novosad. He plays on Saturday, so he won't be at the Baylor game, of course. So that's kind of what they're dealing with on this last game of the season. And I would say last weekend was a bigger recruiting weekend. They had more guys in the building for that game. And yeah, I mean, things didn't go well for Baylor, but I will say all the reactions that I got, I just want to reiterate this. In recruiting, one game is never going to really change things most of the times for most recruits. And so I would say that everything that I got from recruits, it was a great experience. They got to know the coaching staff better. They got to talk with the other heads or talk with guys who are committed to Baylor. So all of it was positive. The only one thing that I think pretty much everyone said was, I wish the result was different, which, I mean, that totally makes sense, right? I mean, anyone that they're actually cheering for Baylor should say that because it actually means that they were cheering for Baylor while they were there. So, again, I don't think it took a huge hit last week, and I think it was more one of those things that it was a realization of kind of what Baylor is this year, and that is an up-and-down team that is still very young and still trying to find themselves, and that is very inconsistent. And that's okay because they're a year removed from winning a Big 12 championship. So they also have that feeling. And I think most players that visit Baylor and most players that are being recruited by Baylor, it's more about the culture at Baylor and the coaches at Baylor as opposed to just a win-loss record.
Grayson, good stuff. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Grayson Grundhoefer this week is the one that put up our staff picks on the game between TCU and Baylor. That's up in the premium section on SicEm365.com. When we come back, our picks, 7 of them. Levi, Caraway. Garrett, do you have them? We'll have those in the next segment. 7 games, all 5 of the Big 12 games, and that is next. And this is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI can help you find out if you have something that is damaged inside your body, whether a ligament or a muscle, or maybe something that shouldn't be there, or something that is there that shouldn't be there, or something that's missing completely. And here's what they do. They have their office just inside the Central Texas Marketplace on the southern part of Waco, just off I-35 and Highway 6 exit. A state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. I have been in it 3 or 4 times. It costs $497 for an MRI. So no matter where you are, if your doctor, your hospital, your health system, whoever it is, wants you to have an MRI and then you get an estimate and it's anything over $500, Ideal MRI has a machine that everybody else would want, and some have, but others would want, and it's fine. It's fantastic, state-of-the-art. Doctors, techs, and specialists that are as good as you can get, and on top of that, again, $497. There's not a long wait. They will help you with insurance coverage. If you have it, they can help. I've been in it. It's fantastic. I don't like getting inside an MRI machine. I get claustrophobic at times, get spooked. Never have with theirs. They're amazing. IdealMRI.com will look at a shoulder to see if maybe your rotator cuff is torn, or ligaments, ACL, MCL, PCL, or whatever, meniscus. IdealMRI.com. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace, saving you a lot of money and making sure you find out what's wrong with what hurts. IdealMRI.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Cadillac almost beat him to the spot, running all the way down the sideline. Bigsby averaging 11 yards a carry. Wide open and a falling catch for a touchdown. 16-yard strike to Javarius Johnson.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go into the weekend. Levi picked 7 games. A lot of times there may be as many national games, if not more, than Big 12 games, but we're now in the home stretch. 2 games left in the Big 12, with TCU having a 2-game lead on Kansas State. Most likely those are the 2 that play, but you never know. That's why they play the games. Here we go. 7 games. Paul Catalina made up. I can't even read that.
Yeah, Garrett, what is our
y'all are tied at 40 and 37? It looks like, and I'm up 2 at 42.
Yeah, 42-35.
Paul cheated last week and waited until our picks came out and then did opposite picks to get up, and he did. It worked.
You know me.
You're 5-2.
Yeah, I did well last week. The only one I'm kicking myself about is I picked Kansas last week against Texas Tech because I didn't believe in Tyler Shuck.
That's not why.
Yeah, can you actually pull up last week? Can we do that? I think we should probably go over that just a little bit. I do. I think we should.
That?
Okay.
I don't have that one.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do this week, and then I'll get last week, and I'll send it to you.
Because I had somebody actually ask me, like, when do y'all talk about the picks that y'all
That's a great
made?
point. We need to do that on Monday.
Yeah, why make them and then not talk about? Because, I do think that somebody just tuned in like, that dude sucks. He was 3-4, but it's not going to probably change your opinion. And as we say, this isn't ever gambling advice, but it is fun to kind of talk through why it made sense at the time and at least where your rationale was, because you might be 3-4, but 2 of those games you lost were a 1-point loss in overtime to whatever that that's just bad breaks. But
it's a great point. Well,
yeah.
I'll get it to you, Garrett, here in just a second. If you can, delete it when you get it from me and don't show it, because I really did struggle. I really had the worst week possible. Here we go. Baylor is only a 2.5-point underdog at home, which is really almost like being 5.5 or so. They're at home. TCU's rolling, have the it factor, have a lot to play for. Baylor maybe, who knows, maybe they got kicked in the, so badly they come back fighting like they did against Texas Tech up in Lubbock. We all have TCU.
I just don't. I just, like I said on the site, if you're a premium subscriber, I just don't know that I can peg this team week to week. TCU's been playing really well. They've owned the rivalry. So much to so that I'm not even sure Baylor thinks of it the same way that TCU does at this point, because of how TCU has played so much better than them over several different iterations of Baylor coaches and teams for the most part in this rivalry. So, yeah, I'm picking TCU because Baylor hasn't given me any reason to think that they're going to be the team that knocks them off.
I think you've got that backwards. I don't think TCU thinks of this as much of a rivalry. I think it's Baylor that's still. I think TCU's just we just beat them every year, so why is this our rival? That's what I think, really. And I think part of the reason why we hover around 500 is because of the Big 12 alone. I mean, picking all those games every week, it's such a crapshoot that it'd be one thing if it's Ohio State was on the schedule every week. It could be I'll be right 9 times out of 10 with them, but with the Big 12, it's any freaking guess, man, who's going to win any given game, basically. So, this one could very well have us all with eggs on our faces, and I don't care because I'm in the same boat of I probably lost 4 or 5 games picking Baylor, or how many they lost? 3 games? I've lost 3.
Well, they've lost 4.
4, yeah, probably 3 of those I picked.
Brigham Young?
I picked Baylor, I think, yeah.
Iowa State.
I picked Iowa State.
I picked Baylor, I think, in
West
that one.
Virginia.
I definitely picked Baylor in that one.
Oklahoma State.
I think I picked Baylor in that one.
Yeah.
And then last week,
Kansas State,
last week. So, I mean, they alone have cost me at least 3 games and all of us at least 3 games. But yeah, TCU's proven it. Baylor has not. They don't show up week to week at the same clip. And TCU might do things a little bit differently week to week. Last week was more of a defensive effort, but they're steady and they're unbeaten. So, yeah, this is an easy pick for me.
I picked I picked TCU to win this game. I just – you look at the running game. They got 2 guys. I know Baylor has a nice running game too, but you have 2 guys. They're almost like the same person. You have Quentin Johnston, who torched Baylor last year, and you have a quarterback that, again, he may throw one up or 2 as well. He can run. He can actually hurt you in the run game. Then on top of that, they have one of the best cornerbacks in all of college football in Travius Hodges-Tomlinson. Their defense just shut down a pretty prolific offense. So I don't know. That's why I said I think you have to get at least 2 or 3 turnovers, and maybe they do to have a chance. And then you also have to cover Darius Davis in the kick and punt return game, and that's not easy to do. West Virginia, K-State. I didn't even blink at this one.
No, K-State runs the ball too well. West Virginia doesn't stop the run. They don't really stop much at all on defense. Had a great game in the rain last week against Oklahoma, but I think this is not a good matchup for them.
Yeah, this would be a massive blown opportunity by K-State. They should win this game and not really have too much trouble doing it, just given all the stuff swirling around West Virginia right now. I mean, they beat Oklahoma, and they turn around, and there's like no celebration whatsoever. They fire their AD, and it's back to Neil Brown hot seat talk. So a little bit of, you got to be careful, K-State, walking into Morgantown. But if this game were in Manhattan, it would be a complete no-doubter. And even being in Morgantown, I don't have much, much hesitance in picking the Wildcats here.
I picked them as well. They looked so good against Oklahoma State and also against what they did against Baylor and had that TCU lead of 28-10. I can't get that out of my head. Also, they lost to UT, and speaking of which, UT is 13-2 all-time against Kansas. But they've also lost to Kansas in 2 times in the last 5 years. Lost in 2016. That was what got Charlie Strong basically fired, and then lost last year in that thriller in an unbelievable finish, 57-56. But I just feel like Kansas's defense gives up a lot. I'm going to go with Texas in this game.
I don't think that Texas will run the ball as poorly as they did last week, and that they will let those guys do it, because you don't want to – what Texas doesn't want to do here is get in a shootout with Kansas. They don't want to – let them, throw the ball back and forth and let them feel like get in a rhythm. I think you want to play a little keep away here. Use Bijan, use Roshan more than you have the last few weeks. Really ride that because don't give them confidence. Don't let them kind of play their game. Now, they could still win the game that way, but I think that you can maybe break KU's spirit, especially looking at the way that Texas Tech ran the ball against them last week.
I don't know if you can break their spirit. They're pretty damn resilient.
But the best way you can do it is keeping the ball away from them. And so I think that's what you got to do. I think you got to use those 2 studs you got. And maybe this is not Xavier Worthy week, and that's fine because you've got Robinson and Johnson back
I want to say something about Worthy, Craig. Xavier Worthy's numbers, he can beat you. He's like in a big clump of 9 touchdown catches while around the country. There's like 6 or 7 guys ahead of him. But they've thrown deep to him. He's hit him a couple of times, but the inaccuracy of Ewers deep to Worthy has hurt Texas. It is just not – maybe he'll get 2 long ones this weekend.
Yeah, maybe so. He's been very fine. The best way to polish up saying he's not average, but he's been fine. And, 9 touchdowns on the year, but he's not going to scrape 1,000 unless he – 1,000 yards unless he has just a mass, he'd need 250 yards tomorrow and then do it again and then add some more in the bowl game. So, it's been, from that standpoint, outside of the scores, a little bit of a letdown given how much, he performed last year and how much you thought that would catapult him. And then you had Ewers and oh my God, Ewers and Worthy's going to be crazy. And it's been whatever. But give me Texas here. I don't, I think if there's a weak spot, it's probably the Kansas defense. Jalen Daniels, I know it's been fun to speculate more about when he's coming back, but I don't think he's probably coming back tomorrow. I don't know that. It'd be a fun surprise if he was, but even still, Texas played really solidly on defense and has been getting better in that regard. I like them definitely better than KU's defense, and I think the UT offense will rebound a bit this week. So, yeah, give me Texas here.
Kansas gives up 167 yards per game, 93rd in the country rushing defense. So that would be an interesting stat there because Texas did not even move it at all against TCU. I take Texas as well. Now, this one here, I got to tell you, I changed it. Texas Tech's trying to play for a bowl game. Iowa State's trying to keep their hopes for a bowl game alive, and I took the Red Raiders, even though the game is in Ames.
I also did, only because Iowa State's just found ways to lose games that I think they're going to win. So I just don't have faith in them to close. But would it surprise me to see Texas Tech go on the road, a place they haven't played well this year, and lose this game? Nope. This is actually the one I'm most concerned about getting wrong.
Here's the thing is, like, I went back and forth on this one as well. You think, oh, well, Iowa State's not going to be able to keep up with Texas Tech potentially scoring. Like, Tech's going to score at least 21, 28 points, right? Well, not necessarily. Yeah. Like, they could very much score like 10 points tomorrow because Iowa State's defense is really good, and there's nothing that's like, oh, my gosh, how are they going to answer Sir Roderick Thompson? Or, oh, my God, how are they going to defend Tyler Shuck? I mean, like, all due respect to those guys and everybody on Tech's offense, they do have some weapons. There's nobody that just frightens you, especially if you're the Iowa State defense. I mean, they've seen, a lot of talented offenses already this year. So I think Iowa State's defense is going to bog this down. I do have a problem with the Iowa State offense and Hunter Deckers. I mean, he just turns it over and turns it over. They do it in the worst situations, like down in the red zone. It's happened multiple occasions, and I don't feel great about this pick. If this was in Lubbock, no doubt I would have picked Tech to win this game. It's in Ames. It's, getting towards the end of the year. It's getting cold outside. I think it's going to be like 30 degrees out there, if not worse than that. Defensive type of game in my mind, and give me the Cyclones just a slight edge, but yeah, a Red Raider victory wouldn't surprise me here because of Deckers throwing 3 more picks and them only being able to score 10 points versus Tech scoring 10 plus. I could see this either way.
Tech scores 32 points a game. Iowa State allows 16 points a game.
Yeah,
that's kind of there. I took Texas Tech. Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. Now I took Oklahoma State earlier. I think Spencer Sanders is a lot closer to 100% than he was in the last 2 to 3 weeks. But it's Oklahoma. They have dominated this series. Didn't meet them last year. Remember, that was a huge game that knocked Oklahoma out of the national championship game, and that was in Stillwater. It was an unbelievable game. Probably will be another one. I just feel like Oklahoma's offense here still has the ability to score some points.
Yeah, this might be, for me, my pick that I heard this term one time about all the stuff you put in the recycling. Like, most plastic doesn't get recycled. We don't really know what they do. So it's called wish cycling. This might be that for me, and that, like, I really would like to see, like, part of me is curious to see a 5-6 Texas Tech team and a 5-6 Oklahoma team next week.
That would be fun.
And how that changes the game, that one of them will lose and not get there. So this might be me trying to manifest that a little bit too much. Oklahoma State is still, really banged up. I just think if Spencer Sanders plays, this game's going to get weird and interesting. And he played at the end of last week's game, so no reason to think that he won't play this week. So that's why, that's why
he's starting.
That's why I thought so. So. Or play better this week than it even played well in the last week's game. So
I'm pretty sure they've named him starter now. Like, he's officially starting. And that was the idea coming out of last week with him showing up anyways, is that he was, I think Gundy said that even Tuesday that he was going to start. So that's official, and that made me doubt this a little bit. I really don't know with Oklahoma, and I feel like I know them probably as well as anybody, but this year it's been very hit or miss, and I do like their offense a bit more. I don't think Spencer Sanders, even if he's back, is going to be quite 100%. I guess that Oklahoma defense, he might not need to be, given what we've seen from that unit, but I got to think they rally the troops here, and if they can't win Bedlam this year after all the other losses they've taken, and you drop that game that you always typically win, that would really be something for Brent Venables to have to deal with. But, he gets his first Bedlam win. I don't have a lot other than Oklahoma's typically won this game and a bit better offense. But
I took Oklahoma just because. I just feel like the fact that at home, even though if this was Oklahoma State a month ago, it's a completely different pick because it would have been Oklahoma a month ago too. Southern Cal, USC, on the road across town against UCLA. We all took the Trojans. if we're going to get to last week's game, we got to make this a little bit quicker here. I just feel like the Trojans have I just feel like they're just a little bit better. And UCLA, of course, has been better than any of us could have thought. I'll take Caleb Williams to outduel UCLA counterpart.
Yeah, DTR, great. We'll talk about it in the top 5 about this quarterback matchup. It's a great quarterback matchup. It's great that this rivalry actually means something again because, USC's been irrelevant for, a good long while. UCLA's been irrelevant for even longer. And so good to see these teams relevant and doing something meaningful again. Unfortunately for the Pac-12, it's not going to happen for them for too much longer, but I think USC just a little bit better.
Yeah, give me Caleb Williams over DTR, and give me that Trojans offense over whatever UCLA is going to roll out. I don't trust USC's defense, but in a shootout, still, give me Caleb Williams and the Trojans.
I'll take USC. Now, in a game that is going to be a tweener, Utah on the road in Eugene, and the question, will Bo Nix play? I can't imagine he won't, but can he be as effective as he's been this year with Oregon?
I will never doubt Bo Nix again.
Okay.
I'm going to get him tattooed on my chest.
No,
Bo Nix. No, I'm not.
You're going to get Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah. But no, I do think, it does make me nervous, but if Bo Nix plays, he's a gamer, man. I've loved watching him play when I've gotten the chance this year. So that's why I'm leaning there. Cam Rising's been banged up, but Utah still found a way to win. This should be a really, really, really fantastic game.
This is a track meet, even though Utah can score. If it gets into a track meet, that favors Oregon, you would think.
I don't know. I actually am leaning Utah here because of Tavion Thomas and the fact that he had one of his best games of the year last week. I think he had his best game of the year last week, to be exact. I was actually expecting a lot more of him, just how many numbers he put up last year. And I think he's been a bit banged up or whatnot. I don't know the exact story there, but I do know he exploded last week. We know Cam Rising's playing. We don't know if Bo Nix is playing. That played heavily into my decision as well. This one was tough to pick, but I don't know. I just feel like Utah and Tavion Thomas is going to be a bit too much.
Oregon started out, I think, as a field goal favorite, and now it's a 2-point favorite for Utah.
Because of Nix.
Yeah, because of the Bo Nix story. I took Utah, and again, that's why these games are fun, because you don't know. Now, Garrett, last week, don't put it up very long. I missed every single game but Alabama.
Well, I mean, this is just an exercise in trying to explain at least some way. I mean, Oklahoma, we all just got messed around there and believing in the Sooners in Morgantown.
West Virginia's haunted us twice this year.
Yeah, and again, like they win that game, they turn around and fire their 80s. Like, what reason was there to really believe too much in the Mountaineers? Yeah. Not much of one. That was a huge miss, though. Bama, solid. Eventually got their way done with Ole Miss. Tulane UCF was a pick'em type of a game, and you went Tulane there, but UCF able to do their thing. We all whiffed on Baylor, obviously. Nobody saw that whooping coming the way that it occurred. Hey, go Red Raiders! You guys believed in Kansas, and that was a closer game than the final score actually said it was. But yeah, just not enough for the Jayhawks.
I took KU to help you. And look what happened.
It was in Lubbock, guys. Yeah. Like, what are y'all doing? I mean, Tech only wins in Lubbock. Yeah. They only win in Lubbock. So that's why tomorrow also I'm picking them to lose in Ames because they haven't won a single road game this year. That would be Joey McGuire's first. It's November 18th. But, yeah, that one was a Lubbock pick for me. Texas TCU whiffed on that. That was just a style of game I was not expecting.
No, it was not. I picked TCU because – the one thing it really came down to was that TCU has moxie and Texas doesn't quite. Like, I just picked it on their moxie. Like, they're better than they were. Texas is a lot better and more confident, and they're not silly like they were.
They're not, like, getting down and staying down.
Yeah, but they're not there yet. We talked about with Sam Kahn yesterday about, I think everybody's expecting Quinn Ewers to be perfect, and going back, if you look at the greatest Texas quarterback ever in Vince Young, he was even a bit of a roller coaster early on. So just let it happen. That's Texas's thing. Just let it happen. Yeah. Let things grow. Water the plants. It'll be fine. But I thought TCU was just a little more moxie.
I thought Texas at home would just I thought it would be 40-35. And then last, we got to go real quick. This is an absolutely terrible pick on my end. North Carolina is on
lost
fire.
by 1.
It was 1.
It doesn't matter.
A freaking shootout. They lost by 1 point.
But to a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback.
I mean, that one I don't feel bad about. I mean, Wake Forest does seem like they're losing steam now, but like that one, I mean, that one and like the, let's see, like UCF Tulane was a relatively close game, but yeah, TCU Texas.
OU and West Virginia.
OU West Virginia is a field goal to win the game. So I mean, like you might lose games, but I mean, it's kind of a thin edge there.
So yeah, I picked North Carolina because they've been playing well lately, and Wake is not doing Dave Clawson stuff.
No, they've just, by the way, burn tape of this video of that
Definitely
particular
will.
week. All right, we'll see what happens tomorrow. It's a lot of fun. Love doing it. Don't mind doing it. In fact, it's kind of fun to do every Friday and then see what looks like evidence Saturday through Monday. When we come back, Taylor McHargue will be doing University of Houston, East Carolina this weekend, and he's next on 365 Sports. This month, Alan Samuels in Waco is having the Black Friday sales event, and it includes the 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab. Total value is up to $4,200, $4,250 with 2.9% for 72 months. $4,250 in total values and $4,250 in total values of 2.9% for 72 months. And $500 off if you are a first responder. We appreciate you doing that as well. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. General Manager Ted Teague, he listens and watches us all of the time. And we appreciate that, as does AJ, among others in the sales department. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Again, it's all the way, the Black Friday sales event, the Ram Crew Cab, 1500 Crew Cab, right now on Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Bach, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
McHargue end zone broken up and caught. Touchdown, Jordan Taylor. Wow.
It's time for our weekly segment with ESPN analyst Taylor McHargue.
Taylor, on Fridays at 4:30. Love this segment from somebody right there. Played it at Rice University, now a part of ESPN, has Houston and East Carolina. We'll try to get to that. Taylor, thanks for your time. I know you didn't play with him. He's older than you, but how about Bert Emanuel's son going off this past week and having a huge game in a MAC game?
Yeah, I'm sitting here wondering why my Rice Owls didn't pick him up. No, it feels like the last couple of weeks I turn on the TV on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and there goes Bert Emanuel Jr. Feels like every time I look up, it's like a 50 or 60-yard run. But he's playing well, playing at a high level for the Chiefs right now.
Taylor, last night SMU got throttled by Tulane. You've seen both those teams this year. I know that Tulane didn't need extra motivation to win any game, but I don't know if I'm SMU, if I'm thrilled about being the team that goes to play Tulane after a loss.
Well, we talked about it some on All-American on our show about how SMU was going to line up a little different than UCF did. I thought UCF with John Rice Plumlee presented some challenges that Tulane really hadn't seen all season, and that's why they got burned and lost a week ago. On the other side, SMU, I think the passing offense had been a little bit inflated the past couple weeks, especially against Houston. They put up 77 points against the Cougars, but if you go look at the secondary and the pass rush for Houston, it's been decimated with injury. They're playing with a lot of guys that really they did not expect to see meaningful snaps. So fast forward a couple weeks, that line I thought was a little closer than it should have been. And Tulane did come out on a short week with the edge between SMU and Tulane. I thought they clearly played like the team that, it sounds cliche, but wanted it more, played more physical. And for Tulane, I think there's absolutely the motivation to get up on Friday, go beat Cincinnati, earn your way into the American Championship and get a rematch against UCF.
What do you think about UCF and just how different John Rice Plumlee makes them?
They're going to be really hard to beat in the American the rest of the way, as they have been all season, because of his ability to run the football. When he's healthy, they don't do a lot in the passing game. And there were some throws early in the game, especially against Tulane, that if he hits one or two of those, that game really may have gotten out of hand early against Tulane. But they're limited in the passing game, and everybody knows that. But it doesn't really matter, because that was Tulane's answer. Was they came out, they played man defense and tried to force John Rice Plumlee to beat them, and he did. He just did it running the football. I think UCF is going to line up well really against everybody unless they show up. If they end up getting the G5 if they're the representative of the G5 in the Cotton Bowl, depending on who they play up front, if you have a physical Power 5 program that can line up and just rush 4 and get after the quarterback and then play decent coverage on the back end, that's how you beat Central Florida. It's just hard to do that with a lot of the personnel that is in the American.
All right, so the Big 12 this week, TCU number 4. They're right there entrenched. Everything is in front of them, including Baylor this week. Your thoughts about how the style of game they were able to win in Austin?
I thought out of all the wins this season for TCU, that may have been the most encouraging, because TCU did exactly what it took to win, and you saved the fumble late in the game that goes for a touchdown. Really blanked Texas on all sides. The defensive effort was as good as we've seen, probably the best we've seen from TCU all season. And I think it gave validity to how good this team really is, and that no one should be surprised anymore. You know, any win that they get the remainder of the way, if we look up at the end of the year and they're 13-0 after the Big 12 championship, I don't think anybody should be shocked anymore. I think TCU deserves to be given the benefit of the doubt at this point.
Taylor, what are we supposed to make of Texas Tech and Iowa State this week?
Texas Tech all season has been a story of who's your quarterback going to be. All year between Baron Morton, Tyler Shuck at the beginning of the year, Donovan Smith comes in. Tyler Shuck, I think, has the highest ceiling and has played well the last couple of weeks. And this is an opportunity for Texas Tech to get to a bowl game in year one for Joey McGuire. Iowa State has been right there as well. It really struggled on the offensive side. They've played pretty good defense, but they just have not been able to do enough on the offensive side to get very many wins. But Texas Tech, to me, the story here is if Texas Tech can get to a bowl game in year one for Joey McGuire, that is extremely encouraging, just given the roulette that we've seen within the quarterback room. Because if Tyler Shuck was healthy throughout the season, I think we're probably talking about a 7 or 8 win team as opposed to probably just a 6-win team. Maybe they get to 7. I don't know if they beat OU, but maybe. But I think that is really encouraging if you're a Red Raiders fan, if they do get to a bowl game for the first year for Joey McGuire.
Taylor, your thoughts on Kansas State, not just necessarily the win against Baylor that's now got them, in position to go to the Big 12 title game if they can win the next 2, but how different do you think they are with Will Howard in command, as he now will be with Adrian Martinez's injury, versus previously when Martinez was still the guy?
Yeah, well, first thing, I don't want to jump on the pile here, but what a letdown for Baylor. I mean, the blackout, the night game, I don't want to get your base all mad at me, but I thought it was such an opportunity to let go from Baylor. And I know I'm not saying anything people don't already know, but you talk about coming out flat. That just looks like I don't think I've seen a game all season where the energy in the building was the complete opposite of the energy that was on the field. And I thought that was really odd, especially for a Dave Aranda team. On the other side for Kansas State, I think Will Howard is the guy. And I think it's problems for the rest of the Big 12 and potentially even for TCU, assuming that's the rematch we get in the Big 12 championship. But Will Howard may actually be the better quarterback between Will Howard and Adrian Martinez. I think Kansas State top down is just a really solid football team. And if they had Adrian Martinez or Will Howard earlier in the season against TCU, they probably win that game. And we're talking about a very different looking, the Big 12 looks a lot different if that were to have happened. But I like the trajectory that Kansas State has been on. They play top down, really good, solid team defense. And they're just never out of a game. It doesn't really matter what's going on. They seem to always take last week out of it where they ran away with it. They just always seem to be hanging around the hoop in the fourth quarter. And then, again, I think that's probably who we see in the Big 12 championship in a rematch against TCU.
There are some games of interest outside of that conference, of course, with TCU in the middle of it and Kansas State coming off the nice win. Oregon and Utah is one, obviously USC, UCLA, but your thoughts about Oregon, because it appears as if Bo Nix may not, although he's a gutsy dude, may not be a part of this one.
Yeah, the last that I saw was that he was not going to go, and I think that becomes a very different team. The Pac-12, to me, is doing what they've done in years past, where they're just cannibalizing themselves again. I mean, the UCLA loss to Arizona was shocking. I do think there's a path with the Pac-12 if things go the way that we think they will in the SEC. If USC were to win out and their one loss is a close road loss at Utah, I think USC probably gets in. Now, if they were to lose and you have a 2-loss champion and then you have an ACC that's down, and what happens if the Big 12, if TCU loses, then all of a sudden we start talking about all these different scenarios where do we get 2 Big 10 teams in, or is Tennessee going to sneak back in with Georgia? But if USC were to win out and they win their conference, if you know how much the committee values conference championships, if they were to win, I think USC is likely in, just given how I think the rest of this schedule shakes out.
Good. Anything else? Taylor, thank you very much. Have fun with your East Carolina's. That's going to be interesting, huh?
Yeah, East Carolina and Houston. I mean, they're two teams that really very similar years. They're both 6-4, and if the ball bounces a different way for them and guys stay healthy, they're both probably closer to 9 or 8 or 9 win teams. The thing that I thought was so interesting is you haven't followed him before. Holt Naylor's quarterback for ECU. He's broken every record in the book, basically, at East Carolina. He's from Greenville. His dad's the PA announcer. It's just like the ultimate homecoming story. So that's been interesting and kind of cool to be a part of and be on the calls this week with them. So should be a good one tomorrow.
Thank you, Taylor. Taylor McHargue, ESPN analyst, Rice quarterback, with us every Friday at 4:30 on 365 Sports. I want to get to some of the chat room here in a second. Craig?
Yeah, well, Ehlers, he's been around, it seems like forever. I think he's a fifth-year guy, but it feels like I've been reading his name and seeing his name with ECU for like 7 years at this point. But, yeah, that ought to be good. And, what was my other thought? Oh, I like the way that he just said basically what everybody's been saying about Baylor. He doesn't need to hesitate. We've all been kind of saying the same thing, but to hear somebody just completely outside the box as far as the discussion goes, say like, yeah, it was weird. Like the crowd was into it and the team looked like they didn't even, exactly. Like it made no sense last week. That made no sense on any level, that performance. And, that's why I just can't pick them tomorrow because I know they'll have a better showing. It's not possible to have a worse showing than they had last week. But I just like not? They're going to have no. They scored 3 points. They scored 3 points in a blackout on a Saturday night where they had a shot to go to the Big 12 title game if they win, and they did none of that. None of that's on the table anymore. So yeah, that was flummoxing to me, and I really think that that's one that Dave Aranda still probably doesn't have the answer for, and is going to have to analyze this offseason and go like, okay, how do we make sure that never happens again? Because that was just inexcusable.
Yeah, I agree. All right, now let's do a couple of these and then a break.
And all credit to K-State.
Let's break and then come back.
Yes, with the questions we got from the chat room.
This is chat room questions. I've taken about 7 of them and put them up. Scotty B, I asked you to resend what you had said about Baylor and TCU. We'll try to get to them rapid fire with you. And this is 365 Sports, and we appreciate you every day being a part of what we do.
The wait is over. Richard Carr has trucks, SUVs all over the lot. 2022 GMC Sierras, Acadias, and Terrains have arrived at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. They've also got some Cadillac XT4 SUVs, some XT5 SUVs also available for test drives. But inventory is going fast, so get on over to Richard Carr for their best selection while it lasts. And when it comes to that GMC Sierra, the other vehicles all have perks as well and similar perks, but just to show you some of the offerings of some of these new vehicles, the Sierra in particular offers you a strong steel bed, multi-pro tailgate, first-class towing, advanced collision avoidance, a luxurious interior, massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, premium comfort. What else do you want? You can get all that and more in the GMC Sierra, and that goes some of those options and some of those bells and whistles for other models that you can check out right now over on the lot at Richard Carr. But if that's not enticing enough for you, those vehicles that I listed, there's something a little bit more specific or exact that you're looking for, and you don't see it out on the lot, we'll talk to the good folks over there at Richard Carr, and they will get you on their inbound vehicle list so that you can cut in line for trucks that are in production but not quite in stock, or you can let them help you design the exact truck or SUV you want, and Richard Carr will have GMC prioritize it for you. They've got not only the new trucks on the lot, but dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks as well. And plus, all of those have gone through a 172-point inspection, and they have multiple lending options because they love to say yes when others say no. So whether you're buying new or pre-owned, they've got great options for you. And if you're just wanting to drive your car that you do have already a little bit longer, they also have award-winning service and collision repair. So truly a one-stop shop for whatever you're looking to do for your current or your soon-to-be new or pre-owned vehicle. For 23 years in Central Texas, they've built a reputation as the people you can count on. Richard Carr, run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
I'm going to tell you a tale of 2 companies founded 25 years ago. The first, Pickup Outfitters, started as a little shop on Lake Erie Drive by a local company selling the truck bumpers they were making in Waco. Then, 6 years ago, new ownership took up the cause of battling vehicle nudity, vowing to fight until there were no more naked trucks in Central Texas. And so far, they estimate they've outfitted more than 40,000 trucks at Pickup Outfitters. Now, the second company's story is not as impressive. They too started 25 years ago, but didn't have the division of Pickup Outfitters, and to date, they have not outfitted one single naked truck in 25 years. So we'll celebrate the 25th anniversary of Pickup Outfitters with money-saving specials and valuable prizes. The second company will support them too by giving away 25 one-month subscriptions to their online service called Netflix. Save and win the Pickup Outfitters 25th anniversary celebration through Thanksgiving. Details online at createacommotion.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All right, I just picked out 7 questions and or comments. We'll start with Mike. Do you guys think that TCU, it's only been 10 years in the Big 12, do they still in any way represent the G5 schools?
No.
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 Okay.
No.
I think maybe early on, but no, they've been around now for a decade plus.
The only thing that they represent for that is proof that, like, if you put a team in a Power 5 conference and give them those resources, eventually they can grow into something pretty badass.
Which is what UCF and Houston and Cincinnati can't wait to be a part
Utah's already done it too.
Yeah.
And you know, there's others I'm sure we could point to, but yeah, no, I don't look at them. Any remnants of like those, you know, pre-Big 12 days, those went out the door with Patterson. You know, like this is a whole new. They've been in the Big 12 for a long time now, so
they're not Jenny from the block.
Stop. Yeah. Well, yeah, there you go, Steven. Tulane and Cincinnati a week from today for a spot in the AAC championship. Barring upsets, Temple beating Cincinnati tomorrow or Navy and UCF, and we don't see either one of those things happening. That'd be a hell of a game. Is that what? Wait a minute. Oh, okay.
Because Cincinnati UCF would. I mean, UCF would have to get upset this week.
I don't even understand what he's saying there.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to look. Give me 1 second. This is wasting our time, but we're okay. We're okay. Let me see. American Conference. Tulane is 6-1. UCF 5-1, and Cincinnati 5-1, and UCF beat Cincinnati. So I don't know. Okay, Steve.
What was the question?
Well, it was just making it. Not all of these are questions. These are some of these are just comments and opinions from Troy. The postseason could start sooner, don't you think? Championship game weekend be the first round. Army, Navy, week off. Playoffs start the week after.
I think the whole calendar is going to move. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the last weekend in November, Thanksgiving weekend, be the championship games weekend. But I don't think it's set in stone. They're going to have to do something to move the calendar if they really want to get it to where they want it. But they have to determine before they move it, when do you want the season to end? Like, how quickly do you want to get out before the NFL playoffs really get entrenched and you really start to lose more eyeballs? And how do you navigate all that? So, but
yeah,
we don't know.
I could see the season shifting up a bit. Yeah.
I still think Army, Navy would be either first weekend or whatever weekend that's not a playoff weekend in December.
No, that's going to stay a buffer week, if anything. Not disrespectful to that game to call it a buffer week, but kind of what it is in so many ways.
I can't get emotionally up for anything else other than Army, Navy. I don't have enough for anyone else to play. All right, from Jason, the number of teams in the playoff isn't as important as the criteria for qualifying. A committee just picking teams based on varying opinions and TV viewership potential, that's true, is bad for the sport.
I agree with that. I think it's been funny to see, like, the whole conference championships don't matter crowd. Like, we've seen that argue. Well, it's the Big 12. They're not as good as there's been people arguing for, like, the fifth team in the SEC to get it over a Big 12 championship team.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even look in the camera with a straight face? And I don't care if that team might, in fact, be better ultimately, but this isn't your little fantasy game. Like, winning should matter. Losing should matter. And it's just weird how you try to make it matter for some and not matter for others. But it's always from the same corners of the sport. I saw this, like, what was the big buzz yesterday? Stephen A. talking about TCU. All right, first of all, Stephen A. knows a lot about a lot of different things. College football is not one of them. And I know that was all just to get, like, the hornet's nest stirred up and all of that. But the moment I saw Stephen A. on TCU, I was like, don't need to hear that. And caught the gist of his message. But yeah, let's have those types of folks who clearly do not watch on a regular basis, just going by brands and picking them because that's what's going to get 10+ million viewers. That's healthy for the sport. That's healthy for the TV broadcast. But as far as, like, the actual sport, the actual competition, it's bogus. It's totally bogus. And, I just think it's ridiculous that we have to make it all about the big brand and the TV rating. Like, if you're a college football fan, what the F do you care about a TV rating for? Don't you just want to see the best team?
Here's what's happened, though. Because of this so-called separation, there's two things that we never have cared about in college athletics before. Doesn't mean, you want to know about ratings and all that. Endowment, academic standard, endowment, and TV ratings.
Never once cared about any of that.
It's like Clearasil,
but
on wins and losses.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't expect, people who are, clearly not tuned into the sport to be able to dig deeper than Ohio State, Michigan, or Oklahoma, Texas on any given year. And clearly it's that time of year where now playoffs becoming big talking points. So we need to get the big personalities out there to talk about the playoff. It's that time of year. I just think it's ridiculous how the double standards go depending on what conference you look at any given time. It's so clear as day, but whatever.
Well, and they created the segment was him and Feinbaum, and Feinbaum's answer to every question is SEC. What's 5 times 5? SEC. Dude,
it's like a parody. It's like I respect the empire that he's built. I respect the propaganda machine that he's driven, and all of that. Respect the work, but. At the same time, like, it's such a caricature that even it's turned into, like, fans are caricatures of, like, it's almost like a skit of SEC, you know what I'm saying? It's just almost a skit at this point, and the scary part is that it's not really, and like now it's turned into like that's really how fans have sort of evolved, and it's just weird to me, man.
Yesterday,
it's
when you
super
were,
weird.
when you were out, and we got to get to a couple more because I want to do that. I said it would be nice for non-mega blue blood type of representation on these analyst shows, on these game day sets. You have Ohio State, you have Michigan, you have Texas, you have Georgia. It'd be nice, and that doesn't mean you got to be talented enough. You don't just give it to somebody because they're from, like, for example, Kansas State.
But look, if Blake Bortles all of a sudden became a good analyst, like that might be good, right?
It would be nice to just have a different point of view. Doesn't mean they have to, like, be who, to prop up who they have. It just would be a little bit different. But again, those guys who are there for a lot of different reasons. From Stephen, to clarify what he was saying. What I meant to say is if UC and UCF win tomorrow, the winner of the UC and Tulane game will play for the AAC championship against UCF.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
Any way that slices out, it's great.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'd be cool seeing both those. Cincinnati's obviously not quite the team that they were last year, but UCF and Tulane in a little rematch, that'd be interesting. I'm sure the Green Wave would love to have a crack at that. But yeah, UCF Cincinnati would be great for the Big 12, right? To see those two teams go. The American would probably hate that, or maybe they'd love it because that would be a big rating for them. I don't know. But going back just real quick to it's not just Feinbaum, it's not just Stephen A., it's all that. But it kind of is them because I did see that headline. And it's like, to just get up there and like, I know you make millions, so you probably don't even care at this point what you say because it's just all about agitating people, and I guess I'm buying into that somewhat. But like, I just don't know how you look in the mirror and
you know why?
You just dismiss TCU like that. Like, what has TCU done? You don't watch, Stephen A. You clearly do not watch, and even if you did, what have they done? They're unfreaking beaten. They're unbeaten.
Paul,
That's
Craig,
what they are. They're 10 weeks in, and they're unbeaten in the most competitive conference in the country.
He has $10 million worth of reasons not to care about looking in the mirror.
But, man, there's a bunch of just dumb people in the audience to buy into what he's got to say about, or just, the Feinbaum slant of TCU and the anti-TCU. That's ridiculous.
All right, Rich Boone. Baylor could be undefeated at this point, and I still would not feel good about tomorrow's game with TCU. We've seen it.
Same here.
We get it. We mentioned that. There's a damn fly, and it's driving me crazy. Max Duggan this year, 25 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Yeah.
Is that good?
That's really good. Wayne Gerbosh, Jeff Monk into Nebraska. How intriguing would that be if he brought his brother, the offensive coordinator, with him, kept Mickey Joseph for continuity and recruiting purposes? If it's Rule or Monken or Leipold, someone who brings some grit, as Eric Mateos has to say, or toughness, and maybe go back to the culture that they lost probably 15 or 20 years ago. That's my thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you could put that staff together, that'd be a heck of a swing, I think, for Nebraska. I don't know how realistic any of that is. I just don't know what possibilities there actually are for that. But, yeah, that'd be a heck of a staff to put together. And clearly there's a lot of people that love Joseph around there. So, if you could keep him on board in a capacity and, yeah, certainly get the talents of the Monkins, that would be great.
All right, one more thing. Joe Frog, 91. Joe Rodriguez. Duggan's 2 picks. One was a Hail Mary before the half. Another one, he overthrew a receiver who fell down. He has been really impressive.
He's a great example of why you don't give up on a guy. I mean, he wasn't even the starter to start the year. And here he is, and he's, arguably could have 25 touchdowns and no interceptions based on what you just said. But even then, he's still only got 2, and we're 11 weeks into the season, and they're unbeaten. And it's not all just him, but a large part of it is him, because I don't know that you could say that Chandler Morris would have them at 10-0 right now, right? So it's been an incredible run for him, and I don't know what all that's just the system and, just the style of coaching and Garrett Riley and Dykes and that combination. But, yeah, I mean, nobody would have seen that type of numbers, those types of numbers coming from Max Duggan in any scenario. So that's been a really big surprise.
Last thing from Mike, from someone from the snow belt in Northeast Ohio. Buy a snowblower and get out there every 2 hours, blow a path in your yard for the dogs. Paul, we were talking about dogs in big 6 feet of snow.
I appreciate
out
that.
in front of you. I told you that.
Great
You
advice.
didn't trust me.
I still, do you have to keep going out?
When we come back, Ben Bolch, UCLA from the LA Times and USC. That's next, 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco. Look, I had a dinner reservation with some friends last week for one of their birthdays, and I wanted to get a bottle of wine for one of them. And the only reason I got slowed up at Riverbend Liquor and Wine is there's so much variety. I got caught kind of looking and then realizing, oh, hey, I better go and pick up Amanda. We got to make this dinner reservation. But their selection of everything is fantastic. Their selection of local craft whiskeys, out of this world. If it's from Texas, they pretty much have it in all of its varieties in there, whether it's Balcones, Devil's River, Garrison Brothers, you name it, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street behind the bank. They're also available on DoorDash, so if you can't get out there, if you're hanging out at the house watching games and maybe you need a BEERUN, they can do it for you at DoorDash. You just go on DoorDash, order it there. They've got great craft beer as well. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, behind the bank.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Charbonnet, forward, touchdown. Zach Charbonnet bulldozers in, and UCLA is on the board.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Ben Bolch, LA Times, UCLA and USC tomorrow. UCLA, the home team, and they have played each other a bunch over the years. USC 49 wins to 33-7 ties. UCLA winning last year, and so much on the line here. And Ben, great to have you back on the show. We had you on for many things with the Pac-12 and all of that, but now with this as well. Your thoughts, is this what is the difference tomorrow? What, to me, or you, excuse me, will be the difference in whoever wins?
It's going to come out down to probably who makes the fewest mistakes and who can cause the most turnovers. And that to me might favor USC because they're so good at forcing turnovers. I mean, we know both of these offenses are incredibly prolific. And on the flip side, both these defenses are not that great. However, USC has the advantage in that department in the fact that they've just been so great at turning teams over and taking the ball away. But in my ultimate analysis, Travis diving out for SC is a huge factor. They have a big drop-off at running back. And then I think that kind of flips the advantage back to UCLA, particularly with this game being at the Rose Bowl. So I don't know if you want my prediction yet, but it's going to be very close.
What is it like to have this game be not only relevant again, but like the most relevant game in the conference this year?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could also make a case for Utah, Oregon, right? I mean, they're all four of those teams in the thick of the race for the Pac-12. But to your point, it's been at least a decade, I think, since the SC-UCLA games generated this much buzz. And certainly, with USC still in the mix for the CFP, if they could win this game and then, maybe beat Oregon in the conference championship game, they'd be right there. And then for UCLA, let's not forget, they win this game. They're very much alive in the race for the Rose Bowl game. However, they would need a little bit of help. I believe Washington would need to lose for them to get there. But, yeah, we've not seen this kind of fun atmosphere for this game in a long time.
Ben, it'd be even bigger if UCLA hadn't dropped that game to Arizona. What kind of went wrong there in your mind, and what do they learn from that loss to the Wildcats?
Yeah, it was kind of a perfect storm of factors there. I mean, you had a very hungry Jed Fish, the head coach at Arizona, coming in. He was offensive coordinator at UCLA for a year under Jim Mora, and I'm sure he was eager to prove some things, which he did. UCLA's offense picked a bad time to play its worst game of the year. Dorian Thompson-Robinson did not have his usual money game, and even though Zach Charbonnet ran for 181 yards, they weren't real explosive offensively. 28 points. You usually expect a lot more than that. So, like I said, and then the defense for UCLA continued to struggle. So, kind of all those factors coming together.
Ben, this is a game that is this was pageantry. Back when I was younger, obviously that's a long time ago, but does it still have that oomph factor, that pageantry factor, or not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even in down years like 2018 when UCLA won at the Rose Bowl, I mean, it was just such a emotional game, and and last year with Dorian setting the record with 62 points, I mean, you can just see it on their faces after the game, the fans staying around for autographs. It just means so much to both of these teams, no matter what their records are, and that's what makes this year even more special is that they both have really good records, so it's taken up to another level.
Ben, did you enjoy sitting through another Regents meeting this week?
Fortunately, I was not there. I was up in the Bay Area. I'm actually driving to Las Vegas for a UCLA basketball game as we speak. But yeah, I did not go. But I know that UCLA was disappointed there was not clarity on that decision about allowing them to join the Big Ten. And I got to say, the longer this drags out, the higher I think the odds go toward them ultimately trying to block the move. I would have put it at 90-10 before yesterday. Now I think it's more in line of 80-20. I'm trying to suss out, if they might really block it. But I think that ultimately, I think with the losses that would come out of that, and how can you expect UCLA to go forward in a Pac-12 that they wanted to get out of? I just think that's such an awkward relationship. It's like trying to get a divorce and then having the person come back reluctantly against their will. Basically, would be what I would equate it to. So I think ultimately we'll go forward. But yeah, it was kind of a setback, a little bit of a setback for UCLA yesterday.
What's next as far as that goes in that process?
Well, they've set their next meeting December 14th, and I'm sure that there'll be more discussions, maybe a little bit more information gathering. They unleashed some surveys yesterday that showed that most UCLA athletes who responded to the survey either were in favor or kind of neutral. And the UCLA said it would spend about $10 more million in resources for their athletes. However, they stand to make much more than that. With this move through the media rights revenues and other streams of income. So I don't think the money thing can be used against them. I think it's just, what the impact on Cal, leaving Cal behind in a diminished Pac-12, it's not going to have the same amount of revenue. But, man, if UCLA has to stay Pac-12 without USC, that Pac-12 is still significantly diminished. So it just strikes me that sometimes these regents are acting like UCLA is not part of the UC system. It's almost like it's them against UCLA, but they need to remember UCLA's interests are their interests.
There's no way they're going to vote against them going, is there?
Like I said, I would have put it at 90-10 percentile before yesterday, but and I still ultimately think they don't. But I think that, the longer it's dragged out, the more they are considering it.
What do UCLA fans actually want?
UCLA fans?
Yes.
I think they're fine with this move. As the survey showed, I think that the big thing they wanted to preserve was the USC rivalry, which this move does. I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but it was like 93% of the students that responded to the poll said that preserving the USC conference rivalry was important, as opposed to 22% for Cal. I think there's just so much intrigue with, Big Ten football being a much bigger, better brand in the Pac-12, and, with the CFP expanding, having multiple spots available to it, as opposed to, probably just one for the Pac-12. That's a big bonus. And then, let's face it, some of these basketball rivalries have kind of grown stale in the Pac-12 outside of Arizona and Oregon for UCLA. So I think there's a lot of excitement in some of these new rivalries that will build, and being able to go to some new places and see some cool stadiums.
Ben, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Have a great weekend. Ought to be fun. I think it's going to be a hell of a competitive game. USC, UCLA at the Rose Bowl. Ben Bolch from the LA Times with us on 365 Sports. It was, it's a conference that has, at least on the field, risen to the occasion this year.
Yeah,
good to see.
The Big 12 and the Pac-12 both, I think, really have, and they pretty good games every week, all up and down the slate. So this one has two. This one is maybe even better than the Big 12's was last week, in that the top four teams are all playing each other in that league this week.
Kind of like a playoff game. Basically, it's exactly what it is. Thanks to Ben for being a part of today's show. When we come back, just around the corner, we'll have Sam Bradshaw. Yep.
Yeah, there needs to be some clarification. When I missed towards the tail end, the guy who asked about the Munkins, they're cousins, not brothers. So I wanted to make sure there was that correction that was put in there.
That'll be on the replay. There'll be someone.
I will say this. I don't think, while I think that would be awesome if Todd Monken went to be the offensive coordinator at Nebraska, I think he's also up for some head coaching jobs, especially when you're the OC at Georgia. You're going to get calls. So I don't necessarily see that happening.
No, I don't either.
No, not likely. But like I was saying, if you could pull that off, that'd be great. That'd be a hell of a staff. That'd be awesome if you could do that if you're in Nebraska. But yeah, the odds of it are probably not in their favor. But this is that time when the coaching carousel is going on, where you're dreaming big and trying to figure out how big you can dream and how big you can actually make it. So it's not a bad thought at all. It's just, it's probably a bit unrealistic, but, we'll see when all the chips fall where they may. But there's going to be a
a lot of opportunities, I think, coming that family's way ultimately. So we'll be interesting to see how, Nebraska eventually decides to, or what direction they eventually decide to go into, whether that's Monken or Matt Rule or whatever the case it may be, or combinations. Very curious about that job.
UCLA and USC rivalry. UCLA won 8 straight games from 91 to 98. USC then turned around and won 7 straight, which was the Pete Carroll run into the national championship run. And then actually they won 12 of 13 in a row. And then it's been 3 UCLA, USC 3, UCLA, USC. It's been back and forth, a little competitive as they both really have been trying to find themselves. Last year, 62-33 Bruins at the Coliseum.
Yep. And Lincoln Riley's now the head coach at USC for a reason. So, yeah, you add him into this mix, and you add Caleb Williams into this mix, and it ought to be a great offensive showing. I'm not sure how great defensively it's going to be in really any way, shape, or form, but offensively, yeah, there's going to be a lot of fireworks potentially on both sides, and I'd imagine more than potentially there will be some fireworks on both sides, because I don't see either one getting a ton of stops in this game. So how that shakes out to, ultimately who's popping more off at the end of the night, I would default to Caleb Williams over DTR. Not like some by wide margin or anything, but I just like USC's weapons a little bit better than I like UCLA's, even though they've got some really nice ones too.
You know what? When I think of USC and UCLA, and I know there's been, for some reason, I always remember when I was a kid, 12 years old, in 1971, O.J. Simpson sealed a Heisman Trophy. They were number 1, beat UCLA 21-20. It was a touchdown run where he went down the sideline, weaved back, kind of a Reggie Bush type thing, back when he was absolutely as good as anybody in the world at being a running back. This is one that still flashes in my mind. When we come back, Sam Bradshaw around the corner, and a story about NC State's head coach Dave Doran and an ex-player stalking him. That 365 Sports, that's next. Brazos Oral Facial Surgery. If you have someone in your family that needs to have wisdom teeth removed, they can do that. In fact, try stem cell banking with Stemodontics. They have that available. Dr. Scott Warren, who did implants for me, so I eventually were able to get my crowns in 2 teeth right here on this side of my mouth. He does all of that. Oral surgery. Patient stories that are on the website, which is BrazosOralSurgery.com, are phenomenal. Dental implants, wisdom teeth, full arch replacement, bone grafting, and you have a staff there that is so fantastic. My regular doctor, dentist, is Dr. Steve Childress. He recommended Scott Warren for the kind of implant surgery or process and procedure I needed. That's how good he is. That Steve Childress said, that's who I would go to because of my gum line. And Dr. Warren and his staff were absolutely fantastic. They're really just incredible. Again, it's Brazos Oral and Facial Surgery. If you have any issues with I'm talking about major reconstruction, contact Brazos Oral and Facial Surgery on just off Highway 84 in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Sam Bradshaw of Sikkim365.com.
Sam Bradshaw breaks down the trends, looks at the evidence, and then also starts yet another. Okay, how does someone else attack each other, in this case TCU and Baylor? Sam, I'll start with this, and thank you as always for being a part of the show. So TCU shut down what is a pretty potent Baylor running attack. We know Baylor, that's what Texas running attack. We know that's what Baylor needs to do. What gives?
I think they had a great game plan for Texas. Kept a lot of the deep shots that Texas uses to get a little bit of a pressure relief off of what they're doing in the run game. So if you try and outnumber them, that's kind of their counter. They had a good game plan for handling that. So they were able to do a few things that other teams really haven't been able to do to the Longhorns. TCU's got a good defense. They returned an awful lot at the secondary level and at the linebacker level from what Gary Patterson recruited to. And under a new coordinator, they were able to add some true kind of 3-4 style nose guards, 3 of them, between the transfer portal and a high school recruit who's come on pretty strong for them. And the combination has really revitalized the defense that was struggling this time last year.
Sam, what do you think that TCU will do differently against Baylor that they may have done against Texas to spark their offense a little bit more?
Well, first off, I think Duggan played beneath what he's used to against Texas. I feel like he missed a lot of throws, and I feel like they let Texas get them off schedule to a certain degree. They didn't block very well when they had even numbers. And some of the tendencies they were giving, I feel like Texas had a pretty good read on, and they were able to do some things based off of So I think you'll get a better game from TCU in terms of execution than you got last week. But I also think that's going to be true of Baylor on both sides of the ball.
Sam, everything was bad for Baylor last week, basically. What was the worst?
What was the worst for me is in the first half, you gave up over 60 yards a drive, and 70% of your third down opportunities were converted on either third down or fourth down. As a defense, you can't persist in doing that. I'm glad that they forced 1.5 third down opportunities per drive. I'm glad that they limited big plays, but you've got to get off the field, or else all you're doing is wearing out your defense and not giving your offense a chance to get into a rhythm. I mean, you only had 4 drives in the first half. It's the exact opposite of what we saw in the Bryles years, where everyone's like, the defense is so bad, blah, 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 blah. No, the total yards are high because you had so many drives. In this case, the total yards on both sides of the ball were so low because you only had 75% of the drives that a typical game would have.
Sam, that's a great question, Craig. What was the worst? Oh my goodness! Did that just blow you out of the water? That performance?
It was extremely disappointing, but I think the most maddening aspect of it, as somebody pulling for Baylor, is that the defense, they would get them to third down. They would limit the big plays that K-State was exceptional at coming in, but they just wouldn't get off the field. So it was this constant, you're almost there, but no. You're almost there, but no. And then on the offensive side, it was a more muted version of what we saw from the 2011 team when they went up to Oklahoma State, where they just moved the ball up and down the field in that one, but just petered out in the red zone. They didn't move it as well in this, but I mean, around 33 yards a drive, which is not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad. But when you have 4 scoring opportunities, 3 of them in the red zone, and you come away with 3 points from that, that's not going to win you a whole lot of games, getting basically very inefficient conversion from your opportunities into points. You've got to cash in when you have a chance, and the offense wasn't able to do that. Chapin was a little off. The penalties were bad. They weren't blocking exceptionally well. The receivers were dropping. It was just a disjointed performance, and I expect we'll see a lot better execution, win or lose, against TCU.
Yeah, Sam, they've had games this year where one thing wasn't working and another thing was, but this one was everything not working. Do you expect to see more of a look at Richard Reese this week? Do they go back to Squirrel Williams, or was that more or less the offensive line not playing well?
I think it was a good game plan by KSU more than the offensive line, more than which back you had in. I feel like they did a good job on early downs of trying to run blitz and inflict negative plays to scare you away from leaning on the run game. And to a certain degree, Baylor did not commit to the run game as a result of it, so it obviously worked. So I think Baylor's going to have to be a little more intentional with sticking with the run. You know, I think whether it's Squirrel, whether it's Reese, whether it's Quaylen, you've got to be intentional about sticking with it. And, you know, that's more of a scheme thing, and you've got to be able to do some things to use the full arsenal of your run plays. Because this, to quote the Ole Miss DC from last year, he basically equated this offense to like a run-based version of the air raid, where they have their set of plays, everything builds off of each other. If they're camping out on something else is open. You've got to get to that part of your offense.
So why was that not happening for Blake Shapen? How much, okay, you know, it's always the quarterback's fault when anything goes wrong, basically, no matter what it may be. But, I mean, this has been the kind of year that, you know, I think a lot of Baylor fans weren't expecting, just because of the fact that we saw Shapen play pretty sharp. And, of course, teams get film on him and so on and so forth. And for all we know, he could be banged up a little bit as well. I mean, there's a lot of wild cards, but not knowing exactly what those are, Sam, what do you see from Blake Shapen? What did you see last week, and how can he be better this Saturday?
He was certainly throwing high against K-State. You know, he's had a lot of interceptions. Generally speaking, he's definitely had a couple clunkers of decisions contribute to a couple of those. But for the most part, the decision on where to go with the ball is not really been his problem. It's either been inaccurate throws or drops or bad ball security on fumbles. You know, with him against K-State, his mechanics were a little off. He was thrown high, and it led to some drops. and it was just a disjointed performance. If he just settles down, gets back to what we've seen him do before, you don't pull off what he did against Oklahoma State without being in control of your mechanics. You don't pull that off without being at least serviceable in that regard. You've got the ability to do an awful lot with that kid, and I think he'll grow from it. But people also got to remember, this is a kid that, he's in his second year effectively playing, but really his first full year playing. Colt McCoy ended up being a really, really good quarterback for the University of Texas. But you go back to some of the games in 2006 and 2007, Longhorn fans were just raking him over the coals online about, well, you played terrible against this K-State game. You played terrible in this game, that game, and then the kid eventually developed out of it. I think we'll see some similar level of growth to Blake. I'm not saying he's going to be all Big 12. I'm not saying he's going to eventually play in the NFL, but what I'm saying is you're going to have the opportunity to see a lot of development as a kid.
Daniel Acton on the chat room. I just saw this. Please ask Sam if he has noticed if the officials are calling fewer offensive holding calls this year in college football.
I really haven't been tracking it. I haven't been charting for that. But the thing people got to understand on holding, and back in high school, I actually played on the offensive line. And the thing that coaches would kind of give a barometer, because the old adage, you can call holding on every play, it tends to be that if you're defining it by grabbing somebody's jersey at any point, you could call holding on any play. But generally, if you're inside the armpits holding somebody, they'll let you get away with that. It's when you bear hug or when you don't let go if they're pulling away from you, like they're going in the opposite direction to pursue, and you don't let go. It's things like that that usually get the calls. And Baylor's played a lot of veteran offensive line, guys that know just enough to get away with it without drawing the flag. So I think there's a certain degree of that going into it. And obviously I haven't charted it. I don't know the stats on whether or not I think it's fair or not compared to prior years. But, teams are going to do what they're going to do. You got to live with the calls either way. And, if they're getting away with something, why aren't we?
Do you feel like special teams is taking a little bit of a step back this season? At least
is it a step back, or is it
punting.
more of a revealing?
Punting in particular.
With kickoff coverage, you basically had the last couple of years a guy that can boot it through the end zone whenever you need him to, and for the most part, they've let him do that. Why they decided not to do that against Oklahoma State and probably cost Baylor a loss, I don't know. So that one, I don't know if that's necessarily a step back, but more just seeing what was there that you got away with not having to see. Punt returns, against K-State, that wasn't great, but K-State's also an outstanding punt return team. Phillip Brooks is outstanding, and they block for him really well. There's a lot of good returners out there who don't have good blocking in front of them. K-State makes sure that Brooks has an escort that's really efficient. So I definitely think that your coverage units have suffered this year, whether that's a regression or just a combination of actually dealing with kickoff coverage and facing some good punt return units. That's one I go back and forth on.
Darius Davis is one that doesn't need any help, right?
Absolutely. And, even having to play their backup quarterback for most of the game, if he doesn't make that return, Texas Tech probably has a decent chance to potentially beat TCU down the stretch, but he absolutely tilted that game. He's tilted some other games for him. And in terms of team speed, not just Davis, not just Barber, not just Johnson, not just Kendre Miller, just even on the defensive side in the secondary and at linebacker, TCU is one of the teams on Baylor's schedule that's probably got as much team speed as anybody you're going to face all year. If you're doing a 4x100 relay of all the Big 12 teams in terms of just track speed, Baylor and TCU are both very up there in terms of just guys that can fly. So you've got a lot of guys to watch out for in terms of big plays. Davis is chief among them, but Johnson, Miller, all kinds of dudes left and right can make a house call from a long range. And, TCU, I forget if it's 40 yards or 50 yards, but percentage of plays going for that distance. As of like a week or two ago, I think TCU was number one in the country on that. So extremely explosive offense ahead of you. And as you mentioned with Davis, punt returns, deadly there too.
Kendry Miller went 75 yards, and it kind of popped that game open a little bit and outran some dudes in the Texas secondary, and a couple of them had an angle on him, and that was kind of surprising. I knew he was good, but I didn't know he was that fast, and you're right. So he just proved that they can go 75 at any moment, and that's my question. Baylor, do they have some? Squirrel had the long run that sealed the game. Richard Reese can fly. Obviously, Monterey Baldwin can fly. Gavin Holmes can fly. But do they have that kind of dynamic playmaker like we might see 3 or 4 of them on the TCU offense?
I think they've got guys that when you get them into the open field, their track speed will take over. What I think is a little slower to develop is finding guys that can get into the open, getting them open on those routes, getting them to get that initial separation with the short area quickness. Some of that is a little lagging, but you get Squirrel Williams in the open field, you're not catching him. You get Gavin Holmes and Monterey Baldwin some opportunities to get in the open field with some momentum behind them. West Virginia and Oklahoma State can tell you how that works out. And speaking of West Virginia, one stat that jumped out to me during the prep for this week, I think West Virginia was 115th in the country in terms of 20-plus yard plays given up. TCU's right there with them. So while TCU's defense is good, there's the opportunity to pop some plays against these guys.
Sam, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. It ought to be interesting to see what, without the X's and O's or whatever, what's in between someone's chest. And Baylor, do they have that ability to bounce back after what was a dumpster fire game against Kansas State? Is that going to be in their heart and soul tomorrow? And that still may not be enough, but they will have to bring every ounce of that. Thanks for your time. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
That's Sam Bradshaw. Boy, Sam just dissects it. So many people on Sikkim 365 in the forum section, the premium section, do that every single week.
Yeah, I tried to ask him the question. I don't know if he didn't hear me or just took it differently, but punting has been an issue, has not been as good this year.
No.
I think it's very clear, and I don't know why, and I was kind of looking for what he's noticed there, but it's, the average has dropped by 2-3 yards at least, and it's just not one of those where the ball hangs like it seemed like it hung last year for them, or certainly doesn't go as deep as it typically did. Kickoffs have been great. Kickoffs have been through the end zone pretty much every single time. Field goals have been very good for the most part. When they have attempted those, they've been better than average. But I do feel like punting has been really hit or miss, quite frankly, all year long. And I don't know why. And I know that inevitably, like this, the mother-in-law to be, or, like the cousin down the line will say, well, you have no idea. Well, then give me an idea of why that is. Because I don't understand it, because that was an area when you look at next year, they're going to have to replace basically all their specialists, like almost all of them, not quite everybody, but you are going to have some different guys probably manning, some of those roles. And not that anybody is irreplaceable, but it felt like Isaac Power was like a weapon for you at punter. And I don't think there's been a game this year where I've gone like, "Ooh, look at that one." I don't think there's been a single time I've done that.
I call them rocket launchers.
I haven't seen him boom one, and I haven't seen him coffin corner one either.
You want some stats on that, Craig? Last year he averaged 45 yards a punt. This year 42.4. I don't have the net. 6 touchbacks to 3 last year to this year, and of course that was in 4 more games. 18 fair catches, 10 this year. 20 inside the 20, 11 this year. 20 50-yard or longer punts, 4 this year.
20-4. There you go. So I'm right.
New long snapper. I'm not new special teams coach. I'm not saying that's it, but that has to have maybe some impact.
He's not going to match that unless they punt 16 times in the next 2 weeks.
After Kansas
and he
State,
hits every one of them
have to be 50.
Yeah.
And
there were times when it was gorgeous. He would get that thing just like an airplane taking off on a runway.
And I know that it has something to do with a difference in special teams coach. Matthew Powell got hired by Oregon to do multiple roles for a reason, just like he was doing them well at Baylor as he helped, win the Big 12 championship last year before bolting to go join Dan Lanning's staff as co-defensive coordinator. It was a nice upgrade for him and very well deserved. So I know that plays into some of it. I understand that there's other elements too. The fact that this team doesn't punt very much, but explain that to me. Like, does he does he have to get in a rhythm? Does he need a certain spiral on the snap? I mean,
do you remember what Rauschenberg said earlier this year about kicking a different football at some point? I don't know.
But, and that's what I'm saying is, something's clearly different there. And that stat about 20 of 50-plus versus 4 this year,
Last year, yeah.
That is super alarming, and so was whatever just hit our window that we'll have to check out here in a second. But
not again. 20, 50-plus punts in 14 games, 4 50-plus punts in 10 games. So there's not – here's one thing. He's not turning it over. It doesn't.
It's not
been
hanging
on
up
occasion
there.
4 times. But the other thing is this. I just took up his net. His net punting this year, 38.6. Last year, 41.7, which is also about the same as what his average per punt is right now.
Yeah. By the way, somebody's going to make a gif out of me jumping.
Oh, I know. I saw that. Well, yeah, something hit the window, thank God. Not like before when it shattered it. There's a double glass, so I shouldn't have said that. Now people will know that they need to use a different type of lawnmower. All right, Craig, you're right about that. I'm mad that I didn't ask Aranda about that, and also Charlie's stats. God bless. Blake Shapen's stats. Someone brought this up to me who's in broadcasting nationally, asked me if I could, and I didn't. Shapen's stats prior to when he got hurt, when he had the concussion or whatever it was, prior to that compared to now, his passing percentage is down about 8 or 10 points. His touchdown to interception ratio has almost flipped, where it might have been 11-4 or 9-2, and now it's 5-9.
I mean, some of that, too, could be who he's playing.
Sure.
He was playing, Texas Southern.
Iowa State early on.
Yeah, Iowa State early on, but
good defense.
Kansas, and, compare it to now. Compare it to who they're playing right now and who they've been playing, and it's a little bit different. And, I definitely think there's pre- and post-injury showings there. There's a lot of things that it's not just, make this call better or what, there's little things that add up. And I think one of the things that made this team when they weren't as talented as everybody and they had to find an edge, one of the things that Matt Rule did was in special teams. They found an edge. Last year, why did they take such a big step forward? Yes, because the offense was better, the defense was better, but special teams was also a lot better. They won games with special teams. So, they're not as complete a team. That's fine. You can't be every year necessarily, but that is one in particular where I feel like they've got to come up with some answers.
You had your offensive line pretty much all back except Xavier Newman, even though you didn't have Khalil Keith Erdy. Defensive line loaded up for Bear. Yes, you lost some NFL talent, no question, or those who were at least invited to camps. You had all of your special teams people back but the snapper. Mayers and Hankins, power. But you did not have an Ebner or whoever back, even though Holmes ran back a punt.
I forgot Rauschenberg.
Rauschenberg, who has been an absolute stud of a weapon, except for whatever reason against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and that
might have been, hey, let's pin him inside the 20.
Yeah.
Why not? What's the difference between pinning him inside the 20 and maybe the 18 and a touchback that starts at the 25? It's worth not giving up 90.
If you can keep them from getting the ball at all and having a chance, if you can kick it out of the end zone, then you
He does that, but for some reason.
But then that's why, unless the wind is a terrible factor.
That day was a little breezy, but it was actually the wrong direction. It was not against him when they did not go through the end zone because it was coming from the south.
So unless the wind is a factor, to me, I'm always kicking it through the end zone because I would rather not give. And maybe sometimes it's not just about the returner because teams can have great returners. Sometimes I don't want my guys to get blocked and fall down, and then a guy.
Yeah, the attrition.
There's all these different things that can happen.
You know what, though? Texas, Knowles, who's really good, really, really good, they shut him down inside the 18, 20, 22-yard line, I think almost every time in that game, and it really created some bad field position for Kansas State in that game. If you have those type of guys running down the field, then maybe you can do that and rely on that, but that all it takes is one big pop, and two of them for Oklahoma State. When we come back, two quick notes in college football. Tonight you have USF at Tulsa. San Diego State plays at New Mexico. And then how about this? Former NC State football player Joseph Balotelli was arrested this week. Paul, it's Italian. Right here.
I don't have my reading glasses on.
All right, he was arrested this week and charged with misdemeanor stalking and communicating threats to Wolfpack head coach Dave Dorn. There you go, Paul. Craig, right there. How do you say that name?
Balotelli.
Okay, that's what I said.
Kinda. You were close. Right.
He was a part of the football team transferred to Maryland. He was charged with resisting arrest, with investigators saying he pulled away from officers who attempted to handcuff him. Was arrested in Raleigh. Said he was seen on several occasions near Doran's place of work, sent numerous text messages threatening him and other staff members. Records obtained by the News and Observer. He behaved in a way that would cause a reasonable person to suffer substantial emotional distress by placing that person in fear of death, bodily injury, or the safety of a person's immediate family.
Yeah, that's weird. I read some of that, the text messages, and I'm going to get him, believe me, and all that. So glad that Dave Dorn is safe. And we live in a weird world. And that's crazy stuff that happens.
And anytime you see that,
especially
you have to
coming
act.
off of Virginia.
Let's not put him on a list and just forget that he's there. How about that? Let's not say, hey, we should watch him, and then look up in 2 years and be like, why was nobody watching him? Let's make sure that doesn't happen in this case, because I'm getting real tired of situations like that.
Paul, how do you say that?
Qatar.
Okay, because I thought for a while they were calling it something
Qatar.
else.
I mean,
that's what I thought.
I watched a whole pronunciation video online, and then basically the gist of it was, I'm not from that region, so I don't have that accent, so I'm never going to say it right.
Okay.
But
Qatar World Cup has banned alcohol at the stadiums.
Yeah, 2 weeks before the event.
There was a tweet by
days,
Budweiser that said, well, this is awkward.
Well, and look, they're a gigantic sponsor. They've got vendors set up. I have a feeling this was the plan the whole time for them, was to get it all the way to the finish line and then tell them they can't do it.
It was originally struck to allow FIFA to permit sponsors Budweiser to sell beer at the stadiums, and then at the very end, it was changed right before it all.
Man, no way would I have ever guessed soccer and shady business dealings. Can't even believe it. I mean, the magical location that they're playing in of Qatar and how much sense that made from the very beginning, that wasn't shady at all. That's sports. So
when you have Sepp Blatter, the guy who scammed that into existence, who's now since been arrested and prosecuted, saying it never should have been there. Yeah, no S, Sepp.
Yeah.
Like, even the guy who set it up is like, yeah, it was a bad idea, but we took the money.
One more note, this is normally off the radar, but we don't have that today. Luka Doncic, a rookie card, sold for a record $3.12 million in a public auction. It does not include reported private sales, like when the same card was sold in 2021 for $4.6 million. There's the card.
Dang.
2018 National Treasures, Luka Doncic rookie card, Logo Man patch, Auto 101 card. Listed by the PWCC Marketplace, sold for $3.12 million. I mean, we see Craig does Lou Gehrig card, or there's a Nolan Ryan rookie card, or a Mickey Mantle rookie card, or even something now. I mean, it is nuts how much these things can go for. All right, when we come back to wrap up the week, hey, tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the morning, we're live right here, Baylor TCU pregame, and also on KWTX, the local CBS affiliate, and tonight at 10:30, Sports Tonight on the CW channel. This is 365 Sports.
This month, Allen Samuelson Waco is having the Black Friday sales event. You can save big on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab with total values up to $4,250 with 2.9% for 72 months. That's right, plus an extra $500 bonus cash to first responders and no payments until January 2023. Shop an award-winning dealership with award-winning product. Allen Samuelson Waco, the place to shop Ram trucks.
Come by, let's be friends.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 things to watch this weekend. Number 5. Can OU and Tech lock down bowl berths? Because if they don't, or one of them doesn't, one of them will be playing next week for it at least. So if both these teams lose, that's going to be 2 5 and 6 teams trying to get to a bowl game. And obviously both of them were in one last year. And success for Joey McGuire, we said all year long, is, just maintaining, building towards, and getting back to a bowl game. So this would be a slight step in the wrong direction year one for him, especially if he's completely not able to win on the road. And for Oklahoma, we already know how much of a disaster of a season it's been, but would be wild if these are 2 5 and 6 teams next week playing for a bowl game.
I almost wish for it, because that will make that game way more interesting. If they're both already guaranteed, I don't know how much that will be that fascinating of a matchup outside of just being a fan of those two teams. I said at the beginning of the year, I don't know why we're not thinking that Tech should be making a bowl game this year. And I got the whole, well, Joey McGuire's only in his first year, and I get that, and I understand that. But, here they are, and they've had multiple opportunities. They could have booked it 2 weeks ago. It's hard to make a bowl game, but it's not that hard. They made one last year and then fired the head coach after making one to hire Joey. So, how difficult is it really? I think that, fortunately for him, no matter how you slice it, if they don't make one, then you'll have the built-in excuse. I just didn't like the built-in excuse of he doesn't need to make one. It's year number one. It's but you made one last year, and the guy got fired after making one. So that was just my whole point with it. It's basically built in from the get-go that first-year head coach doesn't make one. It's not that big of a deal. I would feel differently, though, because I would look at all the wasted opportunities that you would have had. And I would also look at it as
first-year head coach, maybe first bowl season would kind of be a big deal for your recruiting class and for your first year of a team to have all those extra practices. Same thing applies to Brent Venables. Like, they both need to, just for that simple reason, make a bowl game, in my opinion, to have more time with these first-year head coaches, to have that sort of an experience. So I think that's big for both. I think from an entertainment standpoint, it would be fun to see both have to go into a must-win next week. But yeah, there is a scenario where both of them still make one, you know? So that would be interesting as well. And I think that would leave West Virginia as the only team that wouldn't make a bowl game in the entire
Iowa State.
In Iowa State. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They got to win out. But thank you for correcting me there. But yeah, that should be an intriguing game. Oklahoma and Texas Tech there to close it out.
Yeah. Number 4, does Kentucky have anything left to throw at Georgia?
This will be 30-6.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And early in the year, when Kentucky's rolling along, the Kentucky fans were like, well, I mean, this might be where we can derail Georgia. Well, no one has yet. And after you lose to Vanderbilt, I don't think anybody feels like you can. I'm curious to see what they do have left after that to try and climb this mountain.
Were there really Kentucky fans? I thought they stood any shot at Georgia.
I think early in the year when they were rolling along and they, we got an NFL quarterback, all these great things now.
Heard all about him all year. Yeah. Can't wait. No. I mean, do they have anything? They can throw some stuff at UGA, but it's basically like throwing a fruit at the side of the bus. They're just going to keep on driving. I don't think that the Bulldogs have too much to worry about.
Yeah. Number 3, the Big Ten West matchups, particularly Iowa versus Minnesota.
This is not college football.
No, this is college football as it was invented. Take the face mask off in that Iowa-Minnesota game, and you've got 1907 all over again. They might even have the guys wear their little press card in the fedora to cover the game. But the Big Ten West could get interesting. If Iowa loses to Minnesota, if Purdue, all that could go on this week there in the Big Ten West with who gets to lose to Michigan or Ohio State.
Yeah, and then again, sometimes championship games are bizarre. But, yeah, that's kind of being fed to the Lions. Okay, great. It's kind of like in the past when District 12, 6A high school football here, you win a district championship, now go play Duncanville.
Yeah, so that's what they're dealing with. Number 2, and I know the answer to this question, but who has the bigger upset risk, TCU or Michigan? Kind of in similar spots in that Michigan's playing Illinois. That's been a team with a really solid defense, a really good running game all year long. TCU's playing Baylor, the defending conference champ. Obviously, I think it's TCU, but Michigan does, have a game. They can't look ahead too far on this week on Illinois because that's a team that's really solid running the ball and really solid playing defense and, might match them a little bit. Michigan will probably ultimately out-athlete them, but, nobody's probably invincible in that, especially looking ahead to the rivalry week game next week.
Illinois is a respectable team. They've also lost a couple in a row. Baylor just lost badly last week, so it might be splitting hairs, but I would default to TCU. Just off the top of my head here. But, both got to be careful. And you always wonder about Michigan of whether or not they're looking too much forward to that, final one and that one that's going to determine who goes to, play for the Big Ten title and also potentially to the college football playoffs. So I guess there's always that chance. But then again, I think they've kind of been at this, often enough at this point that they sort of know the deal and know that you can't just overlook Illinois to look at Ohio State. So I think Michigan will be fine. I think TCU will be ready to play too. I don't think either one of them is going to come in not aware of the risk in play.
Yeah.
Too close to the finish line.
Yeah. Number 1, DTR versus Caleb QB showdown. You don't really get QB showdowns like this all the time. 2 great quarterbacks, a huge rivalry game, a ton on the line. This is the best, most excited I've been about a Pac-12 game in a long time, personally.
Could be a college football playoff berth on the line.
Yeah, there's a ton on the line in this game. And 2 really fun quarterbacks, guys who have really bright futures ahead of them. So, yeah, I think this is kind of maybe the coolest thing of the week right here.
I look forward to this. Well, how many of these elite quarterbacks, you have Hooker against Bryce Young, There have been, I'm sure there's been 5 or 6 others, but how many of them have we had?
Yeah, because it's not just like we're awash in elite quarterbacks.
Right.
The NFL sits there and desperately tries to scramble and trade up for guys that might be good every single year. So the fact that we get these two right here at the end of the season is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean they're both really great, and I like that UCLA, USC more so than the guys pulling the trigger are actually playing for some stakes and playing for something substantial, and it's going to feel like a big deal. And I don't know how often this game feels like that to most people across the country, but obviously this one's going to have that big game feel to it. So I'm curious to see what kind of an audience that it pulls in and what the turnout's like for it. And again, I default to Caleb Williams over DTR ultimately in this one. But yeah, this is the biggest battle of LA we've seen in quite a while. So that should be fun.
All right, Paul, very well done. Thank you very much. There's one super chat. Hayden Maxwell has a question for Craig. What are your thoughts on the Big 12 just doing a basketball expansion with Gonzaga, Villanova, Georgetown, and UConn?
I don't know. Sounds fun. Sounds like it would be right up Brett Yormark's alley. It sounds like you could put together, you could almost be the basketball version of the SEC, talking about we could have our own conference, our national tournament or whatever. You'd have so many teams, but you'd have so many excellent teams. I mean, it sounds fun, but it also sounds like fantasy booking, honestly, because to have like basketball only participants, I think kind of makes things a bit more complicated than just if they were all together in one sport and just a normal setup team. So on the surface, I think that'd make for a terrific event, a terrific type of conference tournament, and something you could really market and showcase. But financially, I don't know how feasible that is to have 4 basketball schools taken away from that pot of money, but not really contributing anywhere else, especially if basketball's not your main generator. So that's why I think it's probably unlikely to have a number of teams like that, not to mention all the travel and everything, but fun idea on the surface.
Nothing is off the table. Nothing is like, oh, that can't happen, because we've seen all of that. Oh, my God, that did happen, by the way, from Vernon
Thanks
Sheldon Witter. No one sport wonders. And K. Hustle, you're right. This is a really good week for the Pac-12. There's no question. All of you, Clint Moses is happy. The Dragon came back.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean,
one sport wonders, is that talking about like Villanova? And, that's where I'm kind of coming from too, is I just don't know how the basketball only aspect of that, like one team, okay, you could kind of make it, even throw Villanova, okay, but if you're going to like 4 teams, like you're watering down the pool unless you have somebody who's like, that basketball league would be incredible. Amazon, here's $1 billion for it, and that's just unlikely. So,
all right, Provo Cougar fan, to close it out, I guess they're going to be selling O'Doul's in Qatar. And yes, a couple of you did tell me that it pronounced Cutter. All right, for Garrett Ross. Thank you, Garrett. Great stuff. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway, the evil one, and then Emery Winter, who's just the sweetest person ever, along with Jacob Wilson. Conley football tonight is on Sikkim 365 as they try to get on to another round of the high school playoffs. Thank you. Our sponsors, chat room, text line. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, TCU Baylor pregame. This is 365 Sports.